Howdy, howdy. We are live on another Friday night to start off the hashtag TQIF lineup. That's where we start things off with a live Tex-Trek podcast. We're going to be talking about not one, but two episodes of Star Trek. We were blessed with some Discovery and some Picard this week. One of them is a finale, so a lot of fun stuff to talk about. We also have Aaron joining us today, who is going to talk Picard with us. And also tell us some things about the 10 forward bar they did over in LA, so that'll be fun. And yeah, then later on tonight, everyone should go check out the Starfleet Boy After Dark show for some more live fun after we finish here. But in the meantime, we have a lot to talk about, so we'll just go ahead and get started with the show. I'm Fathery.
This is Dave.
Aaron.
Oh, sorry. This is Brian.
I'm Aaron.
And this is Tex-Trek.
Engage.
Welcome back aboard the Starship Texas for the 182nd installment of the Tex-Trek podcast, the home of Star Trek fandom from deep in the heart of Texas, where we take a deep look at Star Trek, old and new, and proud members of the Trek Sphere network. Today we are discussing Star Trek Discovery Season 4, Episode 13, the Season 4 finale, Coming Home, written by Michelle Paradise and directed by Olatunde Osunsanmi. And also Star Trek Picard, Season 2, Episode 3, Assimilation, written by Kirsten Beyer and Christopher Monfetti, and directed by lover of Howard the Duck and mother of Marty McFly, Leah Thompson.
And would-be lover of Marty McFly.
Yeah, she had her way. Ducks and incest. That's a hell of a way to start off our podcast with.
She's a good person for a time travel episode. You know, it kind of works.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we also have Aaron joining us, not from Austin, Texas, but over in sunny LA, who is going to be talking about not only the location shooting they did in this episode of Picard that we're going to jump into in a moment, but he's also going to tell us about the 10 forward bar that he was able to check out.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Just real quick before we ask you too much about that, I just want to talk about a couple of things. Remind everyone, I will be at Star Trek Mission Chicago, and I think that's 2 weeks, April 8th through the 10th. Yeah, so that's actually my birthday, April 10th, so I'll be over there in Chicago. If anyone sees me, say hi. And I think Starfleet Boy and I might do a meetup at some point, so keep your ears to the ground for that if you're interested in that, if you're going to be in the area. And yeah, just want to also point out there was some big Star Trek news this week with the casting announcement for some dude from a vampire show called Paul Wesley playing a character called James T. Kirk. That sounds vaguely familiar. But yeah, just a lot of people really freaked out about that. I just want to remind everyone that Anson Mount isn't going anywhere. Rebecca Romaine isn't going anywhere. They said in the story that Anson's going to remain a regular character. I put that on Twitter and people were panicking like, oh my God, he's not a lead actor anymore. He's a regular character. It's like no, it's like a contractual thing how actors are credited and paid. Leads are regulars. It's fine. Calm down. He's not going anywhere. So everyone just take a chill pill on that. Just wanted to bring that up and air that out real fast.
It feels like if the TikTok hadn't been leaked, that we never would have heard about this.
Yeah, they didn't want to announce that now, right before season 1. But yeah, that's the problem you have with shooting on location, I guess. They might got like some really cool footage of downtown Toronto, but that's the price you pay.
Was there a TikTok just showing him strolling around?
These high school girls recognized him from the Vampire Diary and put videos of him. He actually was nice enough, like he took like a picture with them, and I'm sure he got his ass chewed out for that.
Yeah.
But what are you gonna do? Like the picture, he couldn't have stopped it. The pictures were getting out there, so this happens.
Yeah.
They learned from their Klingon leak where they were trying. Oh no, we're not going to. That's not a Klingon.
Oh yeah, yeah. That dude got fired. And I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but one of the Discovery season 1 writers he got in some hot water with that stuff. But yeah, that happens. But calm down. Anson Mount's not going anywhere. Let's just not even worry about season 2. Let's just enjoy season 1 and anticipate that. But also, Aaron, let's talk about 10 Forward. And I actually, for those of you who are watching us on YouTube, I have some images that Aaron's provided that I'll be sharing.
Cellular photographs.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, just you want to quickly just tell us what that was like?
Yeah. So it was downtown Los Angeles. You basically signed up online and you could choose whether you got a table, a bar spot, or like the little tables where you in the middle of the room, they're little circular ones with like a stool. So we got just a regular table. And when we got there, you're waiting in line outside, and they've done their best to kind of make it feel like it's that outside from Guinan. It's where we saw in episode 2. There's sort of like a little alleyway that the building is in, so it simulates that, but it's also way too clean and nice looking compared to the alleyway. And they have like a fake pole outside that has the Forward Avenue sign on it. And they had the sign that I had been trying, that I had taken screenshots of and stretched and fixed in Photoshop and tried to read, completely readable there about the Hermosa quake and how, what parts of downtown survived and stuff like that. So that was very cool. So waiting for when you're waiting in the line, you're in the right spot when you see people wearing Starfleet uniforms or whatever. And then they had a big kind of a photo background that you could get your picture taken in front of. So that was the outside.
What was the photo background? This is like what did I mean?
It's
was
like
it just
for
a
step
bar,
and repeats.
or was there like something like Guinan or something?
No, there was outside. There was just like it was the Picard logo in CBS probably or Paramount or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then inside there is like the 10 Forward logo with like a painted Vulcan salute. Mm-hmm. So people stood in front of that. So there's basically every place there was sort of a photo shoot opportunity. Mm-hmm. They had stairs. They did replicate the stairs in that show pretty well. You got like the panels that were rescued from the 10 Forward on the Enterprise that are in there. Somebody asked, like, do you think these are the real ones? And you like knock on them, and it sounds like they're like made of cast iron. I'm like, I don't think they'd be this hard and heavy on like a TV show. They'd make it a little bit lighter to move around. So I don't think they're the originals. Mm-hmm. But there's that, and there's a big neon sign of this logo. So people took a lot of pictures on the steps, and they had a little shop in the back. The bar looked pretty much like it did on the show. Like all the stuff that's in there was stuff that did appear in the show, just sort of rearranged. And because you have a large group of people, you can't make it feel very intimate like a bar. So it was more like 10 Forward restaurant or the 10 Forward cafeteria, and cafeteria also because you have you get your food on trays. But what was cool is they definitely streamlined it by you order your food on an app. You never have to stand in line or anything. And your food and drink come that way. Oh, that's the sign. Yeah.
That's very modern.
Yeah, no, it was fantastic. It was, I think, if you had this at, say, like Comic-Con or something like that, or Starfleet or Mission Chicago, you'd have to have something like that because there's no way you could get all those people in there. And so you can kind of see how it has spots like this. And I had my T-shirt that I made was the Arcanus Lager, which was the sign in Star Trek 3, 2?
Mm-hmm. McCoy's bar.
Oh, yeah. Nice. Yeah, that's great. But I noticed, by the way, in that last pic that it's not filled with a million people.
No, there's a lot of people, but not like tons and tons of people. They did their best to. There were 3 basically shifts. So you had 4:30. I don't know why you'd want to go to 4:30. It seems really early. 6:30 and 8:30. So.
If you've had a hard day, 4:30 could be when it's time for start.
That's happy hour.
That's true. And the Romulan ale was very easy to drink. I think in universe it would not taste like this, but it was made to be super sweet, so you could just drink the whole thing. You're like, oh, I drank that really fast.
I've drank so many blue concoctions that were labeled Romulan ale. Like anytime you do like a Star Trek drink menu, you have to have something blue called Romulan ale. It's always different.
Yeah.
It's never beer, which is what an ale would be, a beer. But yeah, it's that's cool.
So along the wall, they had these fun posters and stuff like that, and little photos that they've taken. And I actually found one photo stock image that I used for a client that was on the wall that had been photoshopped. The guy was turned into a Klingon, so it was just very weird to see. Like, oh, that's from that genetics company. But yeah.
I really like that that it wasn't so packed that you couldn't do those photo ops.
Yeah,
because if there were just if there were like 20 other people in there, it just would kind of lose something.
It was a little busier than I think some of these pictures let on.
Yes,
I went through some of the pictures Aaron sent me, and I picked the ones that showed off the scenery and the walls and stuff, and didn't have
But also good job, Aaron. Good job finding those moments of calm. I know how that works.
Yeah, that was, and it kind of, if you had an aerial view, I think you'd see clumps of people sort of move in, kind of like in a museum almost. Mm-hmm. So that's
the Romulan ale we're looking at here.
We had a very weird experience the first time we went twice. Ian ordered Chateau Picard, my friend Ian, and my basically co-creator of Night Shift, which was our Star Trek improv, and he got this and he's drinking. He's like, this is brown water. I'm like, it's not brown water. He's like, no. And like looked at it and just like, oh, no smell, nothing. It was brown water. So he didn't. He's like, oh, I'm not going to complain about it. I'm like, no, this is not wine. Go up and ask. So they asked the bartender, and he's just like, I have no idea what happened. Like where this came from. So we're a little worried. This so our retconned idea was that it was Ferengi that were siphoning off the Chateau Picard and like replacing it with this so they could make profit off of it.
Now you know what replicated Chateau Picard tastes like. So.
Well, yes, nothing. But once he got it, it was actually quite good. But yeah, and I believe that's a photo, if you're watching the YouTube, of that was a 70s fan film.
Fan film, yeah, that Andorian.
Yeah, and that's the Andorian, not Thalen, but Theron or something like that.
Nice.
Similar name, yeah. So pretty cool, and I haven't translated or figured out what language some of these little postcards are. I'm assuming that they're something you could translate. Haven't got that far yet. So, but yeah, so this music festival, the Stardust City Music Festival, was a poster that was in the background in Thad's bedroom in Nepenthe on the first season of Picard.
That's really cool.
And
they
we had a couple costumes
like some worn Guinan wardrobe.
Yep. So, and part of it is like I normally would be taking
some
zillion pictures and like details and everything, but I was just having fun, and it was sort of like I just didn't take as many photos as I maybe normally would have.
Yeah.
But yeah,
no,
and we actually had some
on the
fun...
Star Trek cruise.
Oh yeah.
I didn't take as many pictures as I probably should have, but yeah, I was busy trying to relax and enjoy myself.
Yeah, Ian and I decided to also try a little bit of sharpening our improv chops with the two people that were dressed as... There was a Tal Shiar agent and an Orion. So
yeah, I saw the
Orion
in here.
Yeah, Ian was talking with the Orion, and they were basically, I think, smuggling weapons. The Tal Shiar would not talk to me because I was Starfleet. There was just all these... So they kind of had their story, which was kind of cool.
Nice.
But yeah, so we had a lot of fun doing that. But yeah, so it was a really nice experience. It was cool for the fans. It didn't feel overly structured, which I think was nice. After all hearing, for weeks about the Star Wars Hotel and how, you from 9 to 9:15 you have to be here, and then you do lightsaber training. No, they did not play Klingon acid punk. Unfortunately, we got
sorry. Joel.
Yeah, we had basically what probably what's his face. Wow, I cannot remember names today. Zephyr Cochrane would have in his basically in his jukebox. So.
I mean, that works too.
Some old
but
school. Yes, old school, right?
Very old school.
And you picked up some merch, right?
Yeah, I actually got some stuff for a couple people asked me to pick up things, so I have them with me. We had they actually sold the metal trays that the food came in, and I think we figured out that it's literally the trays that the food were in because they've been cleaned, as opposed to just being freshly minted off of whatever it comes from. It's got the logo printed on there. I got the Arcanus Lager, basically beer glass.
Nice.
And it has 10 forward on the
Go
other
with your
side.
shirt.
Yeah, and then I got a 10 forward shot glass. But there's a jacket, there's a T-shirt. They had 2 posters. One is of the Stargazer, and the other one is of the evil Walt Disney Concert Hall from the Confederation. So I had to pick that up just because it was just funny, because it's like living in Los Angeles and seeing that all the time. But yeah, so it was a lot of fun. It was really cool. I hope they do something like that again. I was talking with Bill from Trek Geeks, and it'd be nice if this sort of thing could go to places other than like New York and LA. Just like take it to different locations where more people could experience it.
You know what's
Yeah.
a trendy town? Austin, Texas.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
There you go.
Yeah,
That is what I
South
would
by
like to
would have
see.
been
Maybe during
perfect
South by
excuse to do
Southwest.
that too.
Yeah, exactly.
More pop-ups.
Yeah, that's actually
yeah,
this week.
pop-ups.
So
And each night there was a different food truck. So the first night was like 4 types of toasted cheese sandwiches, which was like, okay. It wasn't bad, but it was just sort of a lack of just any kind of protein or anything like that. So, but that night that we went was Taco Tuesday. Of course, everybody had the joke like, "What's a Tuesday?" From Discovery. But and we did get a chant of Lower Decks going because there were people, and I don't know how I managed to not get them in the photos. But there was a Shax, Tendi, Mariner, and I don't think there was Rutherford, but it was somebody else. So they were all dressed in their Lower Decks uniforms. So that was a lot of fun.
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Cool.
so we're lower decks, lower decks. That lasted about like 5 or 6 of those, and then the people stopped. But yeah, so it was a lot of fun.
Well, I think they
Yeah,
needed
thank
somebody
you for
else
sharing
in a
that with
different.
us.
Yeah, they needed somebody else in a different show's uniforms to shout back. And
Yeah, well, I
nobody
was in the Picard uniform, so
Yeah,
so, yeah, it was fun. Picard season 1. I don't know, I can't keep up with the uniforms practically.
well, it occurred to me just the other day. They are now uniforms in Star Trek have become so non-uniform that we're at the same place as lightsaber hilts are in the other Star franchise, where you can just design whatever you want and stick it in a fan film and sell it. And you what are they going to do? You don't put as long as you don't say Star Trek or Starfleet.
Right, yeah.
It might. This could be a Star Trek uniform on some ship somewhere.
That is
just
true.
like this funny shaped metal thing could be a lightsaber on somebody's robe. So,
I have like a halogen flashlight that looks exactly like it should be a lightsaber hilt.
yeah. So somebody should get on that and start marketing custom Starfleet uniforms that are not actually any particular uniform, but look like they absolutely could be there. And as long as they're cool as hell, people will buy them.
That feels like the stuff that you see pictures like, oh, this person looks like they're from Starfleet, where you'll have a shirt that just has like a black swoop or something like that, where it feels like, Starfleet bounding instead of Disney bounding or something like that.
Well, yeah, I would like to see some little bit more consistency in the uniforms on the modern Star Trek shows, but there's been hints that Prodigy is going to sync up to one of the Picard variants, and
Well, yeah, if you,
we'll see what
the
happens.
gray did kind of look like that one. Was it the cadet uniforms or
The cadet uniform, and then the Admiral Janeway uniform on Prodigy doesn't look that different from the season 2 Picard uniform. So
yeah.
they look like they're in the same fleet. They're just
Well, everybody has
different parts of
replicators,
it.
so it's like now you can just like maybe each ship can have their own little variation. You can sort of like when you pick and choose, when you add things in, you have almost like clip art, but it's a set amount of like just these are the changes that you can make to each outfit. Swoop on the left, swoop on the right.
I think my headcanon is going with the old the gimmick that they use to try to explain the different patches in TOS, that different fleets have different uniforms, but whoever the admiral is for that fleet can pick almost whatever the hell they want. They got the clip art list. So,
can I make a tiny Easter egg, or not Easter egg, but a detour just for half a second about that?
Sure.
So we saw the picture of James T. Kirk with a different patch. The problem is 2 times in 50 years, or 3 times counting the Enterprise episode where you saw the Defiant, those patches were mistakes. And I've literally since high school been following this. It's a long time. I went to UCLA and into the Roddenberry archives and found the paper that talks about like the delta is the same for everybody on every ship unless you're a merchant marine or a cargo vessel, and then you can do your own thing. But otherwise, it's that. And it's like they list the 2 episodes. These were mistakes. Don't do this again. So, and now it seems like they're just going to throw that away. And so like the 30 years of arguing about this is just like out the window. It's like, great. Yeah.
You found that memo? I thought Larry Nemeczek unearthed that a few years ago.
Well, I had somebody go there and pick it up, and then we both got it at the same time, basically. So,
okay.
Yeah.
That was like right before Discovery premiered, because I remember people talking like, why do they have the deltas on Discovery? And
yeah.
Okay, cool.
I think that might have actually been what got us to go try and find this thing, because we knew it existed. It just was not where.
But if you go with the different fleet idea for uniforms or patches, if you want to, then you can explain why several ships have the same uniform, but not all the ships have the same uniform. So it's something of a fix.
That makes sense.
So,
well, let's talk about this episode of Star Trek Picard. I'll just recap it real quick by reading the official synopsis, and then we'll kind of expand on that with some spoilers, and then we'll each just give a quick general take on it before we talk about it in more detail. But the official synopsis reads, Picard and the crew travel back to 2024 Los Angeles in search of the Watcher, who can help them identify the point at which time diverged. Seven, Raffi and Rios venture out into an unfamiliar world for 400 years in their past, while Picard and Jaradi attempt to gather information from an unlikely and dangerous ally. And yeah, basically, Picard and Jaradi get the information they need from the Borg Queen, while Raffi and Seven track down the Watcher, and Rios ends up getting detained by ICE, by immigration. So that's what's going on. We'll just each kind of give our broad thoughts on the episode, but I'll go first real quick. And I said last week that I hoped that this episode we would have the time travel. I was pretty sure it was going to happen. I just was hoping it would happen closer to the beginning of the episode than the end of the episode. I was ready to get out of that alternate timeline and into the 2020s because we knew the show was headed there. So it immediately started off on a real good foot for me when they dispatched the evil husband and abandon all the alternate timeline stuff and get to the fun 2020 stuff. You know, they go through the time warp before we even get to the title sequence. And the rest of the show, just every little scene, continued to be a lot of fun for me. Allison Pill is so fantastic in the second season, and they're continuing to feed her some great material. The Borg Queen was a great source of tension on La Sirena. I like having her around and her being scary and weird again, like in First Contact. And I think the depiction of the 2020s is a fair reflection of our modern day reality. And Star Trek, despite being set in the future, has always supposed to have been a show about today's world, today's people. So I think it's kind of a good idea if they can come back to modern times from time to time. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that continue to be explored. I guess if I had to have a criticism, it would just be that it all feels like a little safe, a little familiar, similar to things we've seen before in Star Trek, but it was all executed very well, and I had fun with how they're doing it here. So Dave, what about you?
So, I was not really feeling the last week's episode. I didn't really like what seemed to me like kind of second-rate Mirror Universe stuff. So I was happy to get to our present or close to it. And indeed, once that got rolling, I was having a pretty good time there. I liked the stuff with Seven and Raffi on the search, and that there was sort of a little bit of with that, and of course Rios. Nothing, wasn't too serious. That was I thought a fair break from the ominousness that they were shooting for before, and acclimating is always kind of fun. We've seen it in Trek many times, not just time travel episodes, but I don't know, piece of the action and things like that. I liked the episode's title. What was it? Assimilation. Kind of had that conceptual triple play on words. There was like Borg assimilation. There's the crew trying to assimilate into our 21st century, and then there's the like literal, there's the assimilation of like immigrants into a new culture. So I thought that was a really cool thematic. I like when Trek comes to the present and shakes its head at us. I think that's pretty legit. The dodgy stuff to me, it tended to be some of the plot stuff. I still think that the Watcher and that sort of riddle-like nature is kind of weak. It doesn't feel. It feels sort of video gamey to me, like a video game mission. And Raffi's off-the-cuff suggestion that they just start looking around for modern tech, or their modern for them tech, was just accepted, and everybody was just like, all right, let's do that. So that I thought was a little silly, but this episode overall went by very quickly for me. I think it was actually literally a little on the shorter side, but
47 minutes.
Oh, was it? Of course, you would notice. But to me, that's good. I sometimes feel Discovery overstays its welcome with too many denouement scenes, and so when this ended with Rios being carted off, I was like, I'm ready for that. I want more, and that was cool. I like that feeling of ending a Trek episode chomping at the bit for the next one. So overall, pretty happy with it. A few minor complaints.
Cool. Joel in our live audience is saying they missed an opportunity to stand on this street and ask everyone where the Watcher was, but
Chekhov style.
Chekhov and Uhura.
Yeah.
Brian, what was your hot take on this episode?
The episode, you said, it did about what I was expecting it to do, and at the beginning, and that got it off on the right foot. And for me, it did pretty much about what I was expecting at the beginning, and that got it off on the wrong foot, because I was like, they're going to have Elnor is going to die, and then he's not going to show up again until they fix history at the very end of the story. And my favorite Picard character is not going to be in this season. And that's exactly what they did. That said, I really did like this episode. It was really good. That was really the only ding I have against it. And I get it. They want to kill somebody so that their stakes are high. And Elnor is probably a character who perhaps doesn't offer a lot bumping around in the 21st century. Maybe. I don't know. I think it could still be interesting.
I hate to just interrupt for 1 second, Brian. The one thing I think that's a fair call, but I like, if you are probably going to bring a character back, I like that the door is opened immediately for it, and it doesn't seem like they're going to just be like, surprise, Elnor's back. Like, David must have as much as said the door is open. Yeah, so I appreciate that at least.
I did wonder why they didn't just flat out say the door is open, but I'll get to that when we break down the episode.
Right on.
But Dave, you mentioned shaking people, the future shaking the head at the past. I liked a lot the fact that it's the present world we live in is displayed as being hostile, dangerous, dysfunctional, and kind of awful. And it's not some weird alternate timeline where everyone's twisting their mustaches and stroking their eye patches. It is in fact now. And whereas they did this with Deep Space Nine's past tense, and when they did it there, it was a cautionary tale about where we could end up and how bad things could get. Here we're like, no, this is just what it is like. It's just this bad. So yeah, there's a lot of riffing on Star Trek 4 here, but this feels a way grimmer and darker of a world, a more dangerous world for our heroes than the world in Star Trek 4, or really Assignment Earth or what's the other one? One of those.
Future's End.
Tomorrow is yesterday's something. Anyway,
it's more like how the Kelvin versus McCoy described space.
Yeah. The past is filled with assholes and bigots, wrapped in sexism and racism, So yeah, but I like this episode a lot. It tripped along at a great pace. I was never bored. I was always interested in every one of the plot lines and every one of the beats. I was sad when Elnor died, which is clearly what they wanted me to feel. I'm just sad that I probably won't be feeling much more about that character until the end of the season. But yeah, it was great.
Cool. Well, Aaron, what was your reaction?
I really enjoyed, like, a lot of what you were saying, the whole idea of the dichotomy of, like, the 21st century. I thought it was really condensed into the one scene when Raffi first shows up and sees this poster for a Europa mission, followed immediately by all of the homeless people underneath it. It's like just that whole, that in just a scene was like, okay, that's the 21st century. There's optimism combined with hopelessness. So just, I thought that was a really good condensed of the, this area or where they landed. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. Of course, I live in Los Angeles, so for me, it's sort of like, I've been there, and that's that. I know that place. So there's a little bit of a weird, just kind of watching that sort of stuff. And you mentioned the looking for the technology for what the Watcher might be. Mm-hmm. That is also like Voyager's episode, Future's
the same
End.
thing.
Yeah, where they were looking for a warp signature, and they found it in Santa Monica. So, but yeah,
it seemed like pretty standard. I don't know. I just felt like, yeah, that's what you do. You'd scan for weird stuff. Yeah. Is there any weird stuff around here? We'll start there. I mean, we might find some completely unrelated weird stuff, but where else?
They're going to discover TikToks.
Oh no.
Well, let's get into the episode breakdown, and I just want to point out that the first 3 episodes all end with a big cliffhanger. Last week ended with evil husband shooting Eleanor. This week ended with the arrest of Rios. So I'm wondering if that's a tradition. How season 1 of Picard always opened with flashbacks. Maybe season 2 of Picard, it's always going to end with a cliffhanger. I'm just throwing that out there. We'll see if that's
honestly
right.
They even kind of felt like they started with a cliffhanger too. Mm-hmm. The first episode. I mean.
Oh yeah, because they did that in media res. Start your story 75% into it type of thing. Also, I love disintegrations in Star Trek, and we get those at the very beginning when because there was a while in the 90s when.
Oh, that's a good question.
But he was shot by evil husband. He might have been like trying to like take prisoners so he could get information. The 2 other phasers were clearly set on disintegrate, though.
Yeah, it was. I wasn't sure. Was that? I know Raffi fired one of them. She didn't fire both, did she, or did she?
No, Raffi killed husband though. Seven killed the security dudes. But I like that Raffi was the one. She's like, no, you're not going to be married to her. Blasted his ass.
Yeah, it's still maintaining the relationship angle.
Yeah, I did try to decode because I had the same question. Why is this one phaser set to kill and not disintegrate? And I couldn't really follow the confusion. The action is confusing enough that I could not easily figure out who had which gun, and so I could not verify for sure whether or not just by watching it, whether or not where the president's gun ended up, the one that we know was not. Some of them were using their own guns because they throw their own guns on the floor and then they scoop them back up again. So apparently they had their guns set for, our heroes had their guns set for disintegration.
Well, those are Confederation guns that they were using.
I was just thinking that I on a just instinctive gut level, I do like, I guess, watching fascists get disintegrated. But it occurs to me that but for the fact that these our heroes are all self-aware of being out of sync with that world, they would also be fascists too. Q, I guess, gave them their awareness or whatever.
Yeah. I did like that the president, or not the president's husband, ends up not being an idiot. I mean, it would have been
Yeah.
easy. He's smart. He figures out that they're when they try to pull one over. They
What's
do
my
the
full
standard
name?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
like when Homer Simpson tried to get Mr. Burns' mail and they asked for his full name at at the post office, and he's like, I don't know.
But just the combination of things here, it's like, oh wow, like here's Q, here's the Borg Queen, they're going around the sun like in Star Trek 4. Here's some legacy starships that aren't just like the copy paste fleet from the end of season 1. It was just like using a lot of that familiar stuff in a good way, using it not building your story on the familiar stuff, but just using that to enhance the story that you are telling. And so that's more of like what I was saying about getting the episode, started on a good foot for me. Sorry, Brian, like I had already come to terms with the fact that Elnor was going to die pretty early in the season, so I had already kind of made peace with that.
I tried all week because I knew it was coming, but I just
I think
Still
also
angry.
that like all using those callbacks and stuff is probably what made it not feel like it made it feel safe, I guess, in some ways. Just that not taking chances, because it did go pretty much how I expected it to go. That didn't mean I didn't like it, but it was like, okay, there was no real, oh wow, I didn't expect that turn. I was like, so.
Yeah, and the trailers gave some of this away. But
Yeah,
if
well,
the
that's
trailers have to show stuff, I want it to be things in the first 3 episodes because I don't know too much. I mean, there's like a few shots of Picard walking around in modern day LA and characters driving a police car or something. But other than that, I have no idea what's going to happen next in the show. I did notice they had a missed opportunity when they could have had Picard or someone on La Serena during the time warp start hearing dialogue from later in the episode, like in Star Trek 4.
I was hoping.
yeah.
But we're just talking about how I don't want to know what's coming, so I guess they avoided any spoilers with that, and I assume they crash at the Picard Chateau in La Barre, France. They never flat out state that, but Picard says he's taking them home, and they're clearly
Apparently
not
it's not
in North
use
America.
in the
'Cause
21st century.
whenever they beam back and forth from the ship to LA, it changes from nighttime to daytime. So they're somewhere not in North America. I assume that he just crashed them in his backyard.
Yeah.
They didn't seem too concerned about getting spotted. With no remember where we parked cloaking device.
Yeah.
Yeah. It does.
Does he like know that there was nobody there at this time period or something? Like it feels like there's
know that-
it's not being
Yeah.
working or it's not functional.
There's Chateau talk coming up because we know he's going to be talking about whatever weird thing was going on with his mom and maybe more about the
right.
history of that place. So I think that will be explained. Just weird that they didn't mention it here, but maybe he'll be like, oh, this is why there was like a big crater next to the house all my life that no one knew where it came from. The ship was crashed here.
I did like the riffing on Star Trek 4 as far as how they do the time jump, and even they didn't paint the bridge white, but there was that there was echoes of that idea.
Yeah.
No giant CGI heads, but
we got a
maybe
CGI
next time.
ship,
They're gonna
though.
time warp again. The guys still got to get back, so maybe then.
I mean, they don't technically have to get back. All they have to do is fix history, and if they all die, they're. I mean, I guess the counterpoint is all of them are going to die at when the Stargazer self-destructs in the future. So maybe that would be a reason to want to go home, is so that some version of themselves survive that incident. Or maybe you want to go home and arrive a little early, a la Back to the Future, and try to warn them to do this instead of that when they encounter the anomaly. So I suppose there's that, but if they hadn't all been about to die when the time warp happened, they could pretty safely say, we can die doing this mission and another version of us will.
Well, they
will
can't
be
die
fine.
during the mission because Paramount Plus ordered a 3rd season of the show. So they're like, oh no, we're contractually obligated to do 10 more episodes. We can't die.
It could just be on Earth. It'll be like cheaper to make.
Oh, yeah, Earth Trek. That's what people thought about the first 3 episodes of season 1. So
I want to
save on the budget.
I laughed my ass off when the Borg Queen fell over.
Yeah, that was
That
kind
was
of
like
awkward looking.
Oh, that
but
was
then when
amazing.
But immediately after that, when she's crawling around all scary, and you see Jaradi freaking out, and I just thought that it was a little weird how like poetic the Borg Queen got when she's like, move backwards to go forwards, shatter to mend, the past is now. It's like okay, I get it. But later, I really loved what they did with the Queen later, after she kind of, she's in the stable timeline. It's not, her mind is not all broken.
You like when she got more traditional guile.
Yeah. And was scary again. But
I like when they were
Elnor's
crashing.
death scene.
Oh, sorry.
Well, go ahead. What were you saying about when they were
No, I
crashing?
was saying, I love the. It's like, we can't crash a spaceship into the most populated city of the time period. It was just like,
oh yeah.
But if you're Voyager, you can fly by and hope nobody notices it.
If
while
it's
they're
the
having a
JJ
barbecue.
universe, you totally can.
Yes.
Hey, those people were in the present times of the JJ universe. They knew what they were getting into.
You could actually fly your ship into the middle of LA right now, and no one would care. No one would believe it. People would be like, "That's not a real spaceship. That's a hoax."
Oh, that's true.
So
yeah.
So there's a lot you could get
Fake
away
news.
with, actually. Yeah.
Father, you have pulled up a picture of Elnor, and I see from the comments that you're scarring Starfleet boy, who said it's hard to look at.
They don't spend a lot of time weighing the options here. Everything is very fast paced. I think I said last week Picard is moving with a purposeful pace. I'm gonna continue to say that as long as it applies, because I like that. But they do have one of those moral quandaries where what do? We have to keep the Queen alive in order to find the Watcher, and if we're ever gonna time warp again, so I guess we're gonna cut her out of the ship and let Elnor die with no power on the biobed.
I had to admit I was kind of on the other the kill the Queen side, because I was like, you have some clues, you have some information, you can there's a good chance you can figure this out with what you've got. You don't necessarily need her, and you don't need to go home on this particular mission. You're not delivering the whales. If you all live out your life in the past, that's fine. You will have fixed history, and another version of you will not go back in time and will continue to exist. So I was like, I can kind of see how maybe we should just shoot the Queen. We're
Here's
done
a quick
with her.
question. Quick question. Do they have to? Is that the only option? Can they just not lock her up in a jail? Keep her from power, essentially. Would that not be an option?
I mean,
and then
well, that's
plug
what
her
they're
in.
time.
Plug her in if they need her.
Yeah, I mean, given time, yes, but she's actively causing problems in this instant.
I guess so, yeah.
And killing Elnor in this instant. So,
But I thought he had a good last words when he was talking about his medallion. Now is the only moment, the translation on it. That's as good as anything else you can say when you... when
that
you
actor,
died.
he didn't get too many scenes, but he did a really good job conveying the emotion and making me feel it. I think that the notion of this really powerful warrior that he is, actually kind of achieving a sort of calm and not, he actually wasn't quite. He was clearly in pain. He wasn't, afraid to show that, but he kind of did his, hey, I know something that may bring me some peace. Can you please do this? I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, the idea that he was still a badass in this terrible timeline where he was oppressed by the Confederation and hunted or imprisoned or whatever. He still earned the Kowat Malat medallion. So that's what he says. Like, it pleases me to know I was still kicking ass and taking names in this timeline as well as the other.
Yeah, I want to get one of those medallions, and I've already figured out where it's showing up in my role-playing game. But
yeah, well, I'm sure they will be available on Fan Sets is probably working on one right now.
Yeah.
I see in the comments. Yeah, go ahead, Fathery.
Parenthesis I in our live audience says, I'm hoping that the Borg Queen eventually is accepted as a kind of brilliant and useful, yet still weird and misfit member of the crew. She's going to be a hard one to forgive. I guess if you could do it with Emperor Giorgio, you can do it with anybody, but the Borg Queen redemption would be a tricky needle to thread.
I was kind of on that front of maybe we need to give her a chance. She has a vested interest in fixing history as well, and that for now she might be an alliance might be workable. But then she tried to assimilate Jaradi, and I was like, fuck this thing. This is more trouble than it's worth.
As Q, was using all of the episode titles, like anybody's like, "Hello, Scorpion, Part 1 and 2."
Yeah.
But we also get some tension and some sparks between Raffi and Picard, with her blaming him for the death of Eleanor. And if you remember the end of season 1, when Picard dies, Raffi's the one comforting Eleanor. And I guess, she's missing her son. She's messed up the relationship with her son. So Eleanor's kind of become her surrogate son, right? She's taken him under her wing at the academy. And because they set that up way back in episode 1, we can buy into the weight of her moments here.
I thought it was a little weird that Picard didn't have a more emotional reaction, and I didn't expect him to break down. Picard is somewhat notoriously cold at times, but I thought we'd see a little bit more of a reaction from him. Not exactly like hers, just something more.
Yeah, like he would go do it in private or something.
Exactly.
But he's lost people under his command before, and I mean I doubt that it's a picnic for him to go through it again. But
and some of the subplot of this season seems to be Picard has a bunch of stuff he's keeping repressed. So we're going to have a slightly more repressed Picard, I think, in the front half of the season.
It does thematically fit in with the notion that he has not come to terms with that. And that's clearly going to be part of an arc.
Yeah. I did, as I kind of mentioned, Jaradi says it's impossible to determine determine whether Eleanor will come back if they fix time.
Yeah.
And I was like, every other time they've done this in Star Trek.
Nope. Yesterday's Enterprise, they erased that alternate timeline, but the alternate Yar continued to exist somehow.
Yeah, but it didn't delete the original Yar.
Right, but I'm saying like Eleanor's death is circumstances of that alternate timeline. So there's a precedent for the alternate timeline circumstances to remain after it's been corrected. And plus Q is fudging around, giving them their memories and stuff back. So you can't be certain. I agree with Jaradi when she's like, "There's no way we can be 100% certain."
Well, as someone said in the comments, it was
but you could be a lot more certain than she was saying. What I would have done is had Raffi say, well, wait a minute. If we fix history, he comes back to life, right? Because he'll never have come back in time, and he'll never have been in that other universe, and he never will have gotten shot. And then Jaradi says, yeah, then he's on board the Excelsior and gets blown up when the Borg thing happens. And they're all like, oh, he's dead either way. Bum bum, and then we move on with the story. And I think that would have been I don't know, a little more of an intelligent answer to things that had a nice little switcheroo. But
what were you saying,
somebody
Aaron?
had mentioned somebody mentioned in the chat that it's clear that the death actually doesn't matter because it was shown in the trailer. So it's they wouldn't have done that if it was going to be a surprise or if it was going to be permanent.
No, I don't think it'll stick. But I don't know how much Eleanor we're going to get in the remaining season of Picard, or even how much we're going to get of him in season 3. I'm just basing that on the fact that Evan Avagora and Issa Briones both went to Star Trek Las Vegas in August. They were both on the cruise a couple of weeks ago. It's like everyone else seemed to be really busy shooting a bunch of season 3 stuff, except for the two of them. So I don't know. They might not have the...
Nope.
Oh, dear. Hugh got him. He's off in an evil universe.
Or is he off in the good universe? Because we know.
Yeah.
Starfleet boy, we need more power.
We'll get him back shortly. I'm giving it all she's got.
I'm back.
Hey, there he is.
Good work, Scott.
I got erased from the timeline.
Oh, it's just that easy. Okay, so we shouldn't be worried about Elnor. If Father he can return like that.
That's the beauty of doing things live. So, but on that note, should we talk about the away mission? How they have a shitty transporter, so they have to beam into 3 different locations, which I thought was a good contrivance. Kind of made sense, but
I thought it was a little odd that Seven, who's kind of an expert on all things Borg, didn't stay to help deal with the Borg Queen. I guess it's because she really, really cares about Raffi and wants to be with Raffi.
I think she wants to be with Raffi and wants to be away from the Queen. She's got a lot of history with the Queen, and is...
So does Picard.
So does Picard, yeah. But
It seems like in the moment, he's the stabilizing influence, and she is not able to hold back her emotion as well as he does. So she may recognize that and is like, I need to step away.
I also thought it was weird that they had the no phasers rule, which every other time they've been LARPing about in the past, they take the phasers. There's never been a case where they voluntarily left the phasers behind.
I guess they're trying to be a little bit more realistic this time that like, hauling around a weapon of that level of power is like a particularly bad idea.
Yeah,
and
that homeless dude that guy who vaporized himself and City on the Edge of Forever. Which that always made me laugh as a kid. I don't think I don't think it was intended to be as funny as I found it as a youngster, but yeah, they don't want a repeat of that.
Yeah, I mean, they could have at least said, all we have are these huge pistols. We're in this evil universe ship. They don't have the little crickets or something to kind of gesture towards why it's different. But I guess I don't know.
Or these don't have stun; they're only kill, or something like that.
That would be we can't risk killing anybody. We have to leave these behind.
Right.
You know, I would have been okay. That's why I figured that Raffi doesn't keep the gun that she gets. I was like, why isn't Raffi keeping the gun? And she's probably figures she shouldn't be killing people in the past.
You know,
that's a good thing.
Another thing that they could have brought up, Picard could have brought up. I don't. To me, it's a fine contrivance. Like it does make sense to not bring them along. Although it probably makes sense to not bring any tech along. But if Picard had said, "Hey, we know Q is doing one of his damn testing things. Don't take the weapons. Let's try and put on a good front."
That would have been. I think you would have had to set that up a bit with what Q says to Picard in episode 2. But yes, right. I would have liked that. That would have been a cool reason to leave the guns behind.
Basically, there was many chances to have fixed that in dialogue.
Yeah.
Linda Marks in our live audience, she's commenting on the girl who asked Seven, "Are you a superhero?" when she saw her materialize in front of her.
Yeah.
With as many like Marvel and DC movies as they pump out now, that is exactly what a child in the 2020s would associate, that a display of something otherworldly like that. They wouldn't be like, "Are you an angel?" or "Are you magic?" It'd be like, "Are you a superhero?"
Yeah.
I really liked that scene. Or like I liked seeing Seven get what, as she will note later, sort of positive reactions by some people, and her throwing. I think she throws the kid a wink, right? Like you're in on the secret. That was cool.
Yeah, and her like not having the Borg implants on her face, and throughout this episode, she kind of comes off as. I mean, I'm not like by any stripe a marginalized person at all, but to me it read as someone who is kind of like in a minority community, and then like all of a sudden they're like, oh my god, I have like white privilege now, and it's so much nicer when everyone is
I
not
actually
prejudiced against you.
I'm looking forward to seeing Seven talk about that, and I hope they make time to talk about it later, because it's one thing to kind of like intellectually say like, yes, I may have these Borg implants, and they don't. They don't affect who I am. That's not how I have to conceive myself, as being connected to that past. But on some level, she, it is still a visual reminder. And now now that she's sort of free of it, she is experiencing something different. And I think that'd be cool to comment on. It's kind of a nuanced thing.
I do want her to be reborgified when everything's all said and done. But I guess that's kind of mean to say about the character, because she seems to be enjoying life without that baggage.
She in 2024 should get a room.
I think what should happen is she has to allow the queen to reassimilate her to do battle with the queen or something. Ooh. And she has to embrace it before this end of the season, rather than just, history's been fixed and now I have the implants again. But I'm evil.
Where she beamed in with a kid is like across the street from where I used to live. It's a Pan Pacific Park, I think.
Oh, that is pretty cool.
Cool.
Nice.
I did think the idea that the transporter would scatter you uncontrollably to 3 different locations, but yet still manage to make sure that all the atoms are right next to each other in your brain, so that your brain still works.
No, they said what it was. It was the axial, like they couldn't do the account for the rotation of the Earth. the axial rotation.
Yeah, but then the molecule you couldn't keep the people standing next to each other, you couldn't keep the molecules in your brain arriving next to each other.
Yeah,
so yeah, it's a little silly. I'll let it go because it was fun. But
I think Jaradi just wanted to give a little lesson to her ex.
Oh my God.
That's why Rios busted his head open.
She is really rough on her boyfriends. That
she was
true.
Like,
oh yeah, he's not getting it as bad as Bruce Maddox. I tell you what.
Yeah.
Oh
boy.
I
did like something. You can't take that with you because you'll lose it. It's like you're the boy who has to have a string around his mittens.
Oh yeah,
that's great.
I mean, this dude's a Starfleet captain. Like I think he's. I think you're not giving him enough credit, yo. Like, let's talk about the clinic stuff. Rios at the clinic and Dr. Teresa. This is again, it felt familiar. She's very like Edith Killer, or what was Sarah Silverman's character, Rain Robinson.
Rain
I
Robinson,
think. Or Dr. Gillian Taylor in Star Trek 4. But yeah, it's like that notion of if you go back in time in Star Trek, you have to have there has to be like this cute love interest. I guess so you have like the temptation of like I could stay here and mess up the timeline or whatever. But I liked her. I like Dr. Teresa and her kid Ricardo.
Yeah, no,
I did too. Every once in a while, I felt like they're kind of that sort of meet cute thing that was going on felt a little bit writerly, like I could kind of feel the script pushing at it a little bit. But I liked the sequence because yes, it is something that I've seen Trek do, and it's not that was not like some grave sin to be a little bit writerly in that moment. I liked him interacting with someone on that level, just that someone who's immediately part of like a marginalized Earth community, and the fact that the actor has the Latin heritage, I think that gives an interesting in there.
Yeah, and to hear people like speak like modern day Earth Spanish to each other very casually like that, like we've never really heard like conversations in Spanish in Star Trek before, which is it's kind of unusual. I mean, like like where I live, I could walk down to the end of my street, and by the time I got to the next block, I would hear a bunch of conversations in Spanish just on the sidewalk, people hanging out in their yards and stuff. So it's like, it made things feel like more like they are like more present in the real world, I guess, and more grounded in a way that they hadn't shown in previous time travel stories in Star Trek.
Yeah, it occurs to me. I'm thinking, what was the one in Deep Space Nine with the Bell Riots? What's the
Past
episode?
tense.
In Past tense, if I'm not mistaken, they interacted occasionally as like a pair, Sisko and Bashir with people, but it was rare to have like some just one-to-one extended conversation with somebody. So I liked this as.
Yeah, this is more like Kirk's time travel, or I guess Tom Paris and Sarah Silverman. They had some time together, but yeah, Kirk normally. Kirk would like always go on a date when he went back in time. He went on a date with Edith Keeler. He went and had pizza with Dr. Taylor. So,
if you read the Phase 2 script, that was like I think it was the first episode past their
Pearl Harbor
2-hour
lady.
movie. Yeah, Pearl Harbor lady. Yeah, who in my head I always saw as the actress who played Agent Carter for some reason. I don't know why, but like I think it was
Phase 2 would have had Kirk go on a date in the 40s, like right before Pearl Harbor was going to happen.
He's going to have his OkCupid profile or whatever the various dating apps would have very specific requests. Prefer time travelers or prefer all different century women.
I found it amusing that Rios turns out to be the last starfighter. So.
Oh yeah,
What
he
are you talking
was a kid whiz of the simulator game.
Yeah,
he had told that story before.
It does so well that all the adults come out and say, "Oh my goodness, you're the next protege, or your next genius."
You could tell that he had told that story before, like the way that he was like, "I thought I broke something. Turns out I did. It was the record." It's like, okay, yeah, you're you've gone through this story with.
Why would
before.
you not tell that story?
No, I would tell that story every day. Yeah, Dr. Teresa is working on my hand or something. I would totally be telling her how cool I was. Also, I loved the detail of Rios having like real peanut butter in 21st century and thinking it's like super delicious, which is probably such a unhealthy food. They probably don't have anything close to that in his time.
Doubt that. That seems weird. I don't know. That bothered me. Like,
Well,
is replicated peanut butter going to be that radically different from like regular peanut butter? If it is,
Yeah, I guess I kind of
think
thought by the sort of slightly more luxurious TNG times that that they probably had gotten it down pretty solid.
I tended to assume that that he's one of those replicator snobs who like, oh, real food is better than replicated food, and that
fits.
combined with the fact that maybe they're just really good cookies. I mean, you find peanut butter or whatever, and you're like, oh my god, this is so much better than most of the cookies I've eaten. This is an amazing cookie. Also, he's trying to chat up the kid. So how much of that is just chatting up the kid to get the kid to trade the badge?
Yeah, at a certain point, I was like, oh, this guy is hyping up these cookies as a bargaining chip.
But I just assume that homemade food always tastes better than replicated food, because that's why we have like Cisco's Cruel Kitchen and stuff like that.
Depends on who cooks it.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, Riker did not make very good breakfast that one time, but apparently O'Brien's mom was a good cook. So, also Rick and Morty exist in the Star Trek universe, so that means that Mike McMahon is a Star Trek character because he was a writer-producer on that show.
I was talking with Mike, and I said, this is as close as we'll get to having Lower Decks in Star Trek. It's like, that would be like what they were trying to say, basically. Go watch Lower Decks.
I mean,
wheels
Q
within
could
wheels.
drop the phrase.
Yeah.
I don't know
There's another
anything.
butterfly on the refrigerator, I noticed.
Yeah, so there's a lot of butterfly imagery that I didn't notice until you pointed that out to me, Aaron. But yeah, we see a butterfly here. This clinic is actually called Clínica Las Mariposas. I think is how you say it, but butterflies. It's called the Butterfly Clinic in Spanish.
I did not notice that.
Oh, so he just
These are
by
all just
being
butterfly
here,
effect.
yeah.
Yeah.
So by being here, he pretty explicitly screwed up history somehow.
There's more to that too. I have something I'm saving it for the Gorn eggs when I get into all the
Okay.
Easter eggs and jokes and continuity connections. But it's something else Aaron showed me that I think is going to be really fun to talk about.
Do we? Yeah, my assumption wouldn't necessarily be that like the butterfly is there to indicate he did screw up something, but more just as a visual reminder of the potential for it, I guess.
Yeah. Well, we should talk about Terry Matalas, the showrunner this season. He is a huge time travel fanatic. He was the showrunner on the 12 Monkeys show. He is obsessed with Back to the Future. That's why Back to the Future actor is directing this episode. I think he even has like a DeLorean. So he's very much a man after my own heart because I grew up on the Back to the Future movies. I love that car. I love time travel. I love the timey-wimey stuff in Star Trek. But yeah, I think he's just like having fun with the whole notion of the butterfly clinic, stepping on butterflies, whatever. And I'm not at all surprised. The more I've learned about him as a creative, I'm not at all surprised that we're doing a lot of Star Trek 4 tribute stuff here. But you know, I talk about that a lot on the show, how much I love time travel in Star Trek. So.
Is the butterfly effect, that wasn't like, that didn't originate with the Ray Bradbury Sound of Thunder, did it? Because somebody steps on like a butterfly in prehistoric times and alternates.
The butterfly
because there's also the thing about a butterfly,
Plato, right? Yeah.
What's that?
It was Plato or Socrates or one of the ancient Greeks. Yeah, he said the flapping of a butterfly wings on one side of the world could eventually like lead to a hurricane on the other. Like you need.
Now was he doing
action.
it in reference to time travel?
No, but that's what the Bradbury thing did.
Yeah,
right.
Bradbury
literalized
the term butterfly
it
effect was coined by.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, the term butterfly effect was coined by meteorologist Edward Lorenz, who discovered in the 1960s that tiny butterfly scale can changes to the point. What? Oh, that it could change computer weather models, and so it was from sunny skies to storms. So it was part of the weather effect. So Ray Bradbury must have seen that phrase and then either borrowed it or something.
Yeah, I suppose it could be independent thinking, like Bradbury just happened to have, like, because I'm not even 100% sure it was a butterfly. It could have just been an insect the guy steps on in it. But anyway, for side research, something to pursue later.
Yeah.
I think it was a butterfly
Sorry.
in Sound of Thunder, but I want to say. See, I had something I wanted to say about that scene, but it wasn't anything too interesting. Just a smart ass.
I'm
comment.
sorry. I did not mean to.
No. I was just trying to come up with something to say while we were waiting for Father to come back, but he's back. So
Yeah, sorry if that happens again. But
just as a quick aside, I did want to just mention what Raffi said, and I guess we're about to get there. But her line about she said, "I've never been able to understand how a society can exist with so many contradictions and not collapse sooner than it did." Harsh pronouncement on us from the 25th century.
Yeah, although it kind of makes Star Trek more believable, because I was actually talking about that last week. Not to be a downer, but yeah, sometimes I have a hard time imagining how society can continue through the 21st century. But like, according to Star Trek, it doesn't. It's going to completely go to shit in a few decades, and then we have to rebuild from that. So hopefully we rise from the ashes like the Phoenix. We'll find out. But y'all want to talk about, like, I guess the immigration raid and
Sure.
Is this too heavy-handed in y'all's opinion, or does it come off well in your eyes?
I thought it like almost walked up to that line, but in the end, it did. When I'm watching it, I'm like, does this feel like something that could happen? Yeah, still does.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, this
mean,
totally happens, like, all the time.
my feeling was, compared to the previous weird place that they were visiting in the previous episode, this feels subtle and calm.
I mean, my only question
nowhere
was
near as over the top as that previous alternate timeline was.
by like kind of having just the handful of lines from the immigration agent be like, kind of belligerent and very clearly kind of provocative. I'm like, are they not being sort of nuanced enough? Are they dehumanizing him, and doing that? But again, I was like, this is the kind of thing that clearly has happened. It's a summation of a concept that happens all the time. So yeah, I didn't find any fault with it.
Oh, I remember what my question. Where was Rios bleeding from? We see the pool of blood after he falls off the building, and then I don't see any bandages on him when he's here. So,
I like his lip, maybe. I think he busted his lip, probably like inside of his mouth or something.
I mean,
bit his
because
tongue
it
or
was
bit his
spreading
lip,
pretty
maybe
fast. That was
I think he hit his blood. He hit a blood squib. I think that was attached to him by an FX team.
That's why they watched it. There's nothing wrong with him. He's just got a squib in his clothes. Well, go watch the clothes. That'll fix him.
His weird
that was-
clothes.
That was a
It's
squib
called
that
that.
was given to him by his grandfather, though, so it was very meaningful.
But I
One
like
thing
that
that I just
he was-
randomly. Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say, like, I like that he was like trying to help her at the end. Like, he was like, oh, screw it, I'm gonna be the hero. I'm gonna try to help out. I like
Yeah,
that.
he immediately got on board the deal. He immediately went into protective mode. I liked it. What were you saying, Aaron?
Oh, there was one thing that just sort of stuck out to me is that, like, don't get scanned, because anything they will find in ID implants or vaccination chips from a future that doesn't exist. Like, but you're from the Confederation future. Your body is, at least. So would you actually have those chips even? It's like, who knows what they have?
Yeah, the Confederation version.
Because she doesn't have her Borg implant, so
Yeah.
you wouldn't
Yeah,
think
I
you'd
would.
have-
I would nominally guess that as a sort of as a fascist society, they'd have more tracking stuff.
Yeah. True, you're right.
Should we assume from the hand sanitizer all over the place that COVID did happen in Star Trek timeline?
yeah. Apparently, in 2024, it's still
I mean,
Having
I
an
didn't
impact.
notice anyone wearing masks, but I wasn't really looking for it.
No, but I saw that everywhere. There's like hand sanitizer stations, which, to be fair, they do that in clinics and stuff. But that
Yeah.
it did seem like
that will
purposefully
probably
centered
stay.
to-
That's probably
Yeah.
going to stick around, I think. We've all gotten better at washing our hands, and I think that'll probably I think that might have like a little bit of permanence. I guess we'll find out in the years to come. Anything else on Rios in the clinic before we talk about the Borg Queen back on the ship?
Nope. Let's do it.
Okay, so we have Picard and Jaradi versus the Borg Queen, and what stood out to me in this stuff is we get like a little bit of lore, a little bit of exploration of Borg stuff they haven't stated previously, kind of in the same vein of how season 1 of Picard was really good at fleshing out a lot of Romulan culture, and what season 1 of Discovery I think tried to do with the Klingons, but might have misstepped. It's not completely taken over the show like the Romulan stuff did in season 1, but I think that'd be cool if we get, more little Borg tidbits, like just Picard describing, being in the collective and feeling euphoric, even though he had no sense of himself. Like, it's almost like hard to, pull yourself out of, or just the Queen herself really being like the scary first contact Queen, which I'm not sure if she ever quite lived up to on Voyager, but I liked her presentation here. And then I guess Agnes's both defeat of the Queen, but how scary it is now she's impressed the Queen, so that normally I think would make you a target for assimilation.
I feel like Jaradi's kind of she's been kind of publicly psychoanalyzed by the Queen in a few different occasions. I kind of feel for her. I would feel very vulnerable if somebody's kind of calling out my, emotional and weaknesses or whatever right in front of everybody. So it was nice to see her, by the way, get a win on that too. Yeah. Kind of flip the table a bit.
Roddenberry often criticize there shouldn't be friction between our heroes idea because they're all well-balanced people and they keep a counselor on the bridge and stuff. I will say Jaradi, is like, all right, you're going to be seeing my unconscious. It's going to be weird. Apologies. But she doesn't get hung up on, oh no, I can't show Picard my subconscious. That isn't like, it's awkward, but it's not like debilitatingly awkward, which I think Roddenberry would have at least, he probably would have had thrown fits about a lot of new Trek. I think that particular moment, he would have actually been if he settled down and paid attention, he would be like, oh yeah, that's nice that she's not.
He wouldn't react like he did to Star Trek 6 when he yelled at Nicholas Meyer on the phone.
Yeah. I liked all of this. I like anything that gets into people's subconscious and unconscious and externalizes it on screen. That's always something that fascinates me. And so I love this whole sequence with Jaradi and Picard and the Borg Queen. It was wonderful.
Some of it was really well written, like her dialogue about just kind of the base subconscious description of like these emotions. Like the sadness stuff was so dark and unsettling when she's like, I just want to give in and sleep myself to death. I'm like, oh my God, that's so dark. She
killed Maddox. That's gotta be leaving some scar tissue.
No, she was clearly suicidal in season 1 when she put her life at risk to protect the rest of the crew and stop the Viridium tracker that was inside of her when she poisoned herself, or and came very. I think she was like prepared to die in that scene. So yeah, it was. And Alison Pill is just really good at just running the gauntlet of all those emotions like that. So it's very much kind of a master class in her. You just on screen presence acting, just her expressions and everything.
There's something about the way it kind of played out that felt a little gimmicky to me. But at the same time, I can't like pin my hand on what it was, because I feel like using that kind of the sort of partial assimilation as a method to psychoanalyze her, I think that's good storytelling. It's a nice, concise way to do what you want to do and get inside her head and also reveal more about the Borg Queen. But yeah, there's something. Maybe it's because she like Tilly both has a sort of kind of heightened, kind of borderline campy personality at time, and it felt a little goofy to me, but I remember I was a little annoyed at Tilly sometimes too early on, and I came to really like Tilly.
This felt a little bit like an improv exercise in some ways. Like, okay, happy, now sad, now moving between those things, and she has that kind of patter to it. It was interesting.
She had an improv exercise last week when she had to come up with a cover story for Evil Husband.
Oh yeah,
that's why they got busted.
Great.
That's why they got busted.
I really laughed hard at the file name being shit I stole from the Borg Queen.
that was great.
That's what I would name it. If you look at my computer, I have files named stuff like that. So it's like, yeah, what's the like most obvious thing you would think of to associate with this?
Yeah. But It thumbs its nose at the pretentiousness of Star Trek, and so beautifully. Which I do think sometimes Star Trek takes itself too seriously, and I really love when somebody just comes along and takes the piss out of the whole thing a little bit by naming a computer file shit I stole from the Borg Queen.
And it was fun to see her get that victory, because I kind of feel sorry for Jaradi after what season 1 had done to her.
She's been through a lot. Did the Borg Queen? Did she complimented her in some way? She said something like, "You've impressed me" or something like that.
Yeah. Something.
Yeah. She made it creepy, but yes, it was a compliment.
Yeah, I was just trying to figure out whether it was a real compliment or an attempt to manipulate the person who she sees as kind of like emotionally manipulable.
I think it was a compla threat.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Like, I'll be watching you.
I mean, she didn't just copy the information out of the Borg Queen's brain. She apparently literally stole it, i.e. the Borg Queen no longer had the information. I was like, wow, that is some next
That
level
would be
shit.
impressive, I think. To her.
Now
Which is
that
dangerous.
We have, now that we have the coordinates of the Watcher, and also with Seven and Jaradi tracking the Watcher down, I think that next week it's probably not going to be like a whole episode of just rescuing Rios. I think we're going to actually find the Watcher by the end of next week's episode, given the fast-paced nature of these first 3 episodes.
I hope so. I don't think that there's a need to keep it as a big mystery, because I still think it's a kind of a weak plot point. So I'd just as soon get to that and see what they can do with it.
Is it going to be Cosmo from that non sequitur Voyager episode?
No, I think he was only there because he made a mistake. Like he screwed up that whatever happened with Harry and like sent him back.
I mean, I've seen what in the comments that somebody threw out that is like, oh, it's Data's head, or like, I was Gary 7. I was talking about that last week.
Well, people say Guinan, but Guinan's a listener, not a watcher.
There was a number associated, right? Like Watcher 15 or something that we got.
Yeah,
this
there was
week?
15 or something.
No,
So
that was part of the
made me-
coordinates.
Oh, okay. That
It
makes
was like
sense.
the first. That was.
I wondered if that was an
No, it's
indication
not.
it
No,
could
it's
be
not.
part of the.
No, it just said 15. Like
Yeah,
Okay.
because the coordinates are 34.044 north, minus 118.25, 118 west, which is actually Pershing Square, which is right next
downtown
to
Los Angeles.
That's near the park, right? MacArthur Park.
Pershing Square is literally like it's like the equivalent of what is it? Central Park, but like way smaller.
Okay.
So it's like it's near all the skyscrapers and everything. So it's in downtown. It's not that far from MacArthur Park.
Well, speaking of skyscrapers, we should transition over to the Jaradi. I mean, not Jaradi. The Raffi and Seven
Date.
LA
You can call it
adventure.
a date.
their date in downtown Los Angeles at probably a sanctuary district that's no longer secured, is what we were talking about before the show started. We were speculating that that's what's going on here.
Which, if it's set in late September or later, then that, I think that
Makes sense. Like after the riots.
Yeah, LA might have been one of the first places to get rid of it. I have to admit, putting a big thing about we're exploring Europa up in the sanctuary district seems like the ultimate dick move.
That is the most like modern day American thing I've ever seen in my life. Like,
Yeah, I thought that was a great to latch onto that, Aaron, is like just a really fantastic, super concise visual summation.
Yeah.
And I'm imagining that that's be like a SpaceX sort of thing, because NASA would never make advertisements, so it's probably
Right. That's
ChronoWorks is my headcanon. It's like ChronoWorks Industries is somehow they taken the X from ChronoWorks and made it like SpaceX.
So Aaron, if you're walking around in broad daylight, middle of Los Angeles, people are just gonna like run up to you with a Glock and try to mug you, right? Like what happened here?
No. I guess mugging can happen, yes, and there can be shootings, but not. This feels very theatrical. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Well, it is. I guess
I've never had any.
2024, and there's meant to be a little bit more decline, maybe.
Yeah, and if you've had bell riots and stuff, like there are places that I would like
Give-
not just necessarily walk around and. Feel
Aaron,
super
give the world a
stressed.
chance to fail more. We can we can do worse. We can do worse.
We have to build the future. Star Trek has shown us. We've got 2 years to get to that level of mugging.
No,
we have to
the,
make.
the-
We have our computers have to become CRTs again. We have to have like a pen instead of a touchscreen. Like,
have Celsius. They're using Celsius
Oh, yeah.
in the past tense instead of Fahrenheit, so we're going to convert to that in the next 2 years.
I like that Raffi didn't really consider this dude a threat at all and like whooped up on him. I was not quite sure how she learned how to strip a gun down that quick. That was like a modern slug thrower type gun, but you know,
Holodeck.
it looked cool. Yeah, sure.
Holodeck.
Like,
I like that
oh,
one.
money,
That was-
right? Okay, yeah, no, that was great. No,
Yeah.
I'm not doing that.
The building, the Mark Ridge Industrial Tower, which I'm told Mark Ridge is something from 12 Monkeys. I watched the Bruce Willis movie a long time ago. I've never seen the show that
That
Terry
makes
Matalas
sense.
did, but the actual building that they say is the tallest building in LA, is that a real skyscraper, or did they just
It is a
CGI
it's a real
that?
sky. No, it is a real skyscraper. It was finished like in 2018 or something like that, 2017, and I think it's a hotel. I think it's owned by Hilton or something like that, or I can't remember if that's like an airline symbol at the top for something like. Cause some people
I thought
buy
it was
like
Pepsi.
just
I
ad
thought it was like
space.
Pepsi
No,
Cola.
it's
the
not
first time I
Pepsi.
watched.
Yeah, it does sort of look like that, but no, that's not Pepsi. I don't remember off the top of my head. I should have looked that up before I hopped on. Sorry. But yeah, I don't know if there's an observation deck at the top. It probably is, but I imagine, much like in the show, it's not accessible to the average person.
If it's the tallest in the city, then I'm sure that they put one up there. But yeah, it's not
Yeah.
going to be open to the public. You have to go through the security guard. And I thought that scene was really, speaking of like an improv exercise, but yeah, just them being like, "You're not as good as Kevin, right?" And this guy's like, "No, fuck Kevin. I'm way more fun than he is."
You know, this is a good example of like I thought that like Jaradi's lies in the last one were kind of hokey as far as like, you know, doing her kind of quirky improv. I thought Seven did a pretty solid cover here though, with Raffi backing her play, and so I was like, yeah, it worked. It was both funny and within, I thought, the realms of the bounds of reality.
I have to confess, I probably would have stuck in a riff about this guy being, well, but I'm gonna have to, you know, come with you just, you know, because just in case some other security guard sees you. So,
Yeah.
and he just wants to watch the lesbians make out, you know. And I was, you know, they're all like, oh God, fuck the 21st century. So,
But yeah, when you look like Jerry Ryan, it's probably easy to get a common
Yeah.
dude to help you out with some favors or something. But that's part of the story. You know, Seven is like, "Oh my God, this is really awesome. People are like treating me as like this really nice person instead of treating me like this the weird freak."
I just like it. You could just say picture. Just like, Raffi constantly
Like
doing her little
cellular
narration.
photograph
Yeah.
or capture an image. Yeah, first
Capture
she
an
says capture
image,
an
yeah.
image, and then after that she says cellular photograph. Phones in 2020 aren't even like cellular technology, and they haven't been for a while. So I don't.
You still call it cell phone. And people will
Yeah.
call that.
Yeah,
Like that, so.
but that's actually like, I guess
That is a cell
inaccurate
phone that
these
she is
days.
holding, actually. It's
Yes,
like a,
the tricorder.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, that's probably in your Easter eggs. So. Corn eggs.
But yeah, they used Samsung Galaxy Z Flip phones for the tricorders, and then for the pads, it's the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold. It's bigger than the Flip, but I kind of want to get one of those because it's a tricorder.
From the CSS, at least. Or the Confederation.
Yeah, we'll see what
Yeah.
the Federation is using, but
Yeah.
well, it seems like they all. The rule seems to be you use the same stuff for the most part. But,
Father,
Yeah.
it wants
We have the same
you want a
ships.
Confederacy tricorder.
I don't even know what that would be. But
Oh, no.
It's
like
got the
a-
fucking Confederate flag on it. That's it.
yeah.
okay. We'll say it's like steam powered, or something. 1860s technology, but.
So that's bad. The picture you just had up there, Griffith Park is burning down. Apparently, that's like, and if really like clone and paste. This is the one part of just all the imagery in the series, last 2 or 3 episodes. I'm like, nah, this doesn't look good. I don't know. Having seen this sort of thing happen in real life, it just looks too controlled. I guess I don't know.
You're talking about
because
the wide
as a
shot
non-
that.
I must
Finish your thought, Fathery.
I was gonna say for people listening, Aaron's talking about the wide shot that shows the iconic Hollywood. What do you call that sign? The
Hollywood
letters?
Hills.
The Wood
Yeah.
Hills,
Yeah.
okay, the Wood Hills next to a gigantic ass fire.
I will
Big
say,
Earth observatory in the center.
as a non-native, it's one of those things where I'm like, yep, looks real enough. It's just
I have
Oh,
to
yeah.
admit, I looked at that and I didn't think, and at no point did it cross my mind that looks controlled.
Well, true, but I mean, for if you have lived here and if you watched enough of these fires, you're like, wow, that's like they've got it rounded up, and it's like there's fire breaks and everything, and like yeah, but yeah, no, I can, and this is depending on what time of year. It seems like if it does take place a month or two after the Bell riots, this is about the time when we're still having fires. So, sadly.
Well, that's I think all we have on the episode. Unless y'all have any final thoughts, anything else you want to get out there before I go into the Gorneg section of the show.
I was pleased to see they did not try to drill holes in Rios's head to fix him.
Oh yeah, 2024 is better than 1986, I guess, with medical technology. So that makes sense.
Doctor gave me a pill and I grew a new kidney.
I don't think I have any particular comments on the episode. It was very cliffhangery.
Yeah, it is, and so we'll see if that tradition continues. But I'm looking forward to getting past the Find the Watcher quest and actually moving into whatever happens after we find the Watcher next week. And I'm also very eager to see how they go about finding what happened to Rios and then the Rios rescue mission, which I think might be a lot of fun.
Hey, Father, can that be our next Tex-Trek poll? Before it happens, who do we think is the most likely candidate for the Watcher?
This would be the week to do it.
Something to think about.
I mean, it's going to be what was the best Discovery season finale now that we have 4 of those, but maybe we can do 2 polls. I don't know. We'll find out. But in the Gorn eggs, that's the Easter eggs, in-jokes, and continuity connections I found within the episode. I'm just going to knock these out for Picard, and then we'll talk about that Discovery finale. But we open up with a classic... Is it classic if it's from 1996, I guess? I guess that's been long enough.
At this point, sure.
I don't know. It seems like that wasn't that long ago, but we have the Steam Runner and also the Nova-class ship chasing down La Sirena at the beginning, which, if you were ever going to do like weird copy-paste fleet-type ships, it would make sense to do it in your alternate timeline. It would actually probably make more sense than to be like, it's all the exact same ships as the real timeline, but this is more of the Star Trek tradition. So I was very happy to see those, because that was one of my big complaints in Season 1. And there is a line of dialogue on La Sirena from Seven to Raffi about using Dermaline to treat Elnor, and that's something that they established on Voyager that they used a couple times there for medical emergencies. Also, the time warp sequence we talked about, that being very familiar to Star Trek 4, with Rios counting the warp factor, like very much the same style that George Takei did it in Star Trek 4, and then the trippy, dreamlike, surreal sequence. Not as trippy, but still in that same spirit. And then what we were talking about with the tricorders, we get new 25th century tricorders, but this is the Confederation variant, so we'll see what they look like if we ever get to return to the UFP timeline. And some of the locations that it shows in Los Angeles, Aaron, let me know if I get all these right, but it's the Santa Monica Boardwalk.
Yep.
The Griffin or Griffith Observatory?
Griffith.
Okay, Griffith Observatory.
And in here, if you look to the left, is also what the Chronoworks building was from 1996. It's that one skyscraper that's sort of sitting off by itself.
This is it right here, right?
No, you can't see it in the shot. It is literally like kind of offset near the train station. So
okay,
I can't point to it, but it's like, yeah, it's if you're looking at this photo live on the show, if you go up from the observatory's second dome on the left, it's kind of right.
Oh,
there.
I see.
Oh, right here.
Yeah, it's a sort of a brownish orange. Yeah, right there.
Okay, cool. Okay, so those are the 3 that I was going to point out. These are all locations that were visited in Star Trek Voyager, in season 3 when they went back in time and hung out with Sarah Silverman. So cool. And on that deli that Rios passes out next to on the sidewalk, it's labeled Tipton Bros Deli. Tipton Brothers, of course, almost certainly being a reference to the comic book writers that have done a lot of the recent IDW Star Trek comics.
Well, that's
And it was
very
also
cool.
in one of the comic books for the one they did the
City on the Edge
real-
of Forever.
City of Edge of Forever. Yeah, so it's time travel. It's like an Easter egg within an Easter egg, kind of.
Beautifully illustrated by J.K. Woodward. I highly recommend people read that and check it out.
That's cool to.
And this is on a set.
That was cool that they do a tip of the hat to the comics people. They don't. I don't think they get it too often.
Yeah.
Well, they're also using ships from Star Trek Online,
Yeah.
so they're pretty friendly with the licensed creatives these days. Oh, and you have a lot of the authors are working on the David Mack and Dayton Ward. So yeah, they're utilizing all of these Star Trek resources from the non-canonical arm of the franchise. That's really cool. A lot of those are really great, talented people. We see a sign for the LA Sanctuary District, reminiscent of what we saw in Deep Space Nine past tense, and also the Europa mission billboard. It's labeled "To Boldly Go." Of course, Zephram Cochrane it must be like a young kid, and he sees this marketing for this Europa mission, and that's why he's going to coin the phrase "To Boldly Go" later. And then Starfleet ends up really going hardcore with that.
They're really great at
Love
branding.
that. I don't know why, but yeah.
And then this is the
That's why there's
crazy one.
logos all over everything in Starfleet.
Well, there's logos all over the clinic, Clinica Las Mariposas, or however you're supposed to say it. Sorry if I'm butchering it. But there's like a butterfly logo that we see a couple of times in there. That butterfly logo showed up in the first episode of the season on a cargo container when Seven was delivering medical supplies. So Dr. Teresa's clinic must somehow, shape, or form continue into the future, and they're like providing medical supplies that Seven's like delivering to people.
That's crazy.
It was a time travel Gornig. How Terry Metalis is that? He planted an Easter egg that we didn't even realize was an Easter egg yet.
And then
It really
I found
is
the
in the
stock
time
image
travel.
that it's from.
Yes, yeah.
Shutterstock logo, which is hilarious.
Yeah, Aaron.
Like,
Aaron
that's why it's in the
tracked
25th
that
century.
down.
They just grabbed the same file. You know? I had to do a butterfly logo once, and I know this logo. I've seen this design. It was like, so I just went back and looked through all of my files and was like, that's it.
Yeah. For people who don't know, you do graphic design and
Yes.
in real life. So
And speaking of comics, I actually just did 4 covers for the Discovery comic book, the Adventures in the 32nd Century. That is,
issue 1 available now.
yes.
And then the last thing I caught in this episode is when ICE is detaining and arresting Rios. The officer says, "Let me guess, no UHC card, no ID." UHC card is what Dick Miller was looking for on Cisco and Bashir in past tense when he arrested them. I assume they thought that would mean like universal health card, which it'd be nice if we had universal health care in 2024. I don't know if that might be like the one thing they didn't. Sadly, the good thing is the one that they didn't predict correctly.
Or is it just called that, but it's actually just a card that, like, in which you are on a registry, but it's not actual health care.
It could stand
Yeah.
for something else.
Like, it's just got everybody's stats.
This is like what they have in like a lot of countries. Like in Canada, you get like a social health card, and if you have to go to the doctor, you just scan your card. And a lot of countries are like that, but not ours. But anyways, that's everything I found in the episode. So, Aaron, anything you want to leave us with, or the things I didn't point out about the episode, or that you want to mention?
Oh, you mean, yeah, from, no, I don't think so. The aerial view when we're going to the clinic is North Hollywood. It's, I've walked the street a couple times. It's pretty close to my friend Matt's house, so I was like, oh, I recognize that. And you saw CVS so I was like, CVS has been in Star Trek, which is very weird. I don't know why.
And Rick and Morty now. So
And Rick and Morty, yeah.
What else are we?
So-
And I thought Pepsi Cola, but not when I rewatched the episode. But I'm sure
I think
some
that's like
branding will.
Korean Air or something like that. I can't
Korean
remember. what it-
Air.
Or maybe it's just the hotel logo. I don't remember. I'd have to look it up. But yeah, and my in the 25th century, my old apartment building exists still, so that was kind of cool.
Yeah, you saw that in the first episode of the season.
Yeah, and then you can see it in this episode, the current modern day version. So
That's awesome.
yeah,
Cool. Well, after so many decades of Southern California being used to create the future in Star Trek, it is kind of nice to have that again with Star Trek.
Yeah, it was fun to come back. It feels like if you watch TOS, it feels like TOS and Southern California of the '60s kind of have a crossover, and they're sort of interlinked. Like if it was made in Canada, I don't know what it would be like. It could be different. So.
All right. Well, cool. Well, thank you for joining us, Aaron. I'd love if we could have you back on board for more Picard talk throughout the second season. We're going to go spore jump into the 32nd century and talk about this Discovery finale that you haven't had time to catch up on yet.
I've had a lot of crap happening in my life, so I'm a little behind on everything. So, but yes, hopefully next time I'll also be more well rested and be able to string a sentence together.
Oh, well, I think you did great. And everyone on our audience, please let us know how much you appreciate Aaron taking the time to join us, and we'll be sure to have him back. But we will go ahead and say goodbye for now.
Bye.
And talk
Have
about
a good one, man.
Discovery.
Thank you.
Bye. So, Star Trek Discovery Season 4 finale. There's going to be probably a lot to unpack here because we have an entire season now to look at in retrospect. So we'll each just go around and give our opinions on that. I'm just going to recap it real quick by reading the official synopsis again. I'll expand on it with spoilers. But the official synopsis for this one reads... I actually don't have it because I copied and pasted the Picard synopsis again into my notes. So sorry, but yeah, it's basically just they finally get to talk to the 10C. They stop Tarka. They lose Book, but then they get them back, and we're friends with the 10C, and Earth and Navarre are safe. That makes it sound very uneventful, but it's a lot cooler when you see it, I guess. I'll just go ahead and give my opening statement on this episode, but I thought this was a great episode. I am very satisfied with it. It didn't blow me away, didn't knock my socks off or anything, but I'm just pleased to have a Discovery finale that I'm really happy with. Again, like the Picard episode, this immediately got me on board right at the beginning, opening with the Earth rescue mission, finally getting to see Tilly back on the ship. There's just been like a Tilly-sized hole with her being absent from the show, so it just felt right to have Tilly back on Discovery. It felt right. I really liked seeing her and Vance working together, and then from that point on, every emotional beat that they were aiming for in this episode, and Discovery always swings for the home runs, and they don't always connect, they don't always hit, but everything here, it felt like a earned emotional moment. Nothing felt too forced, or nothing like I didn't buy into or go along with. So again, very refreshing and better than some of the past Discovery experiences I've had. And I thought it was really cool. We got this big, huge spectacle of a story that is so entrenched in things like science and diplomacy, and it wasn't about a military exercise. They're not like shooting phasers at people or blowing people up or anything. It was very much the other side of Star Trek. That is the scientific stuff, the intelligence stuff, the diplomacy, the striving for peace, and something that Dave said a long time ago when we were first starting our Tex-Trek project, that what Star Trek really means at its core, Dave, if you remember saying this, is intelligence and compassion together will save the day, will win. And I think that was on display in this episode. So kudos to Michelle Paradise on the script and Tunde on the direction, and there was a lot of solid performances here, and I'm pretty happy with the final result. Dave, what about you?
Having said that that's what I wanted and that you find that reflected in it, I feel bad to say that it did not land for me. I was actually, that's not wholly true. I was enjoying the ride for decent portions of the show, and I thought it was strongest in sort of some of its emotional moments. I thought Sonequa Martin Green did really amazing in the moment where she thought that Book was dead and had to shoulder on. But I feel like Discovery, more often than not for me lately, really monkey wrenches itself. And and I think it was because this sort of felt for all that the season is built around coming to a head like this. It felt toothless for me at the end, like where I felt like almost everybody was getting some kind of a happy ending. Book got saved by the aliens. Detmer was about to sacrifice herself but didn't have to. Ndoye tried to make the sacrifice, even she got saved. Book got community service, I feel like, for his crimes, and Earth and stuff kind of just got scratched. Saru got a girlfriend. It was like I don't want my heroes to be miserable. I don't need it to be Battlestar Galactica, but I need it to have a little bit more edge than it does.
It was toothless is what you're.
That's what I'm going with. Okay. And I don't know if that's like just a broad transition of the show, but I do notice it more lately that everybody on the crew almost feels too supportive to each other. There's too many shots of crew members looking at each other and smiling and like nodding like, yeah, we do support each other always.
Yeah, but I think they earned it here when they get that at the end. But I do agree. I think Ndoye probably should have been allowed to die to redeem herself for her betrayal.
Fathery, I blame you for my feeling this way because you got me watching Deep Space Nine, and that was like it kind of went with a more cynical eye or more realistic, if you want to just put it that way.
Most people survive most episodes on that show, so they've
right. But tonally, like it feels more like Pyrrhic victories and things like that, or and this one just felt like like too much back padding to me.
No, you want more Ron Moore scripts. You said you didn't want new Battlestar Galactica, but you're also pretty much saying I want the DS9 bittersweet victory, and that's the Ron Moore hallmark.
It is I suppose that is the foot that Discovery got off on. That is the vibe of the early season, at least one or two seasons, and when Georgiou was on the ship, there was still some more of that bite. And I also was I was frustrated that the 10C's not motivation, but that their reason for inadvertently killing billions was no more than what I kind of guessed, which was, oh, y'all are just ants to us. We didn't really know. And I was that's a very old sci-fi trope. And it seems like they put all their intellectual energy towards the communication sequences, which I thought were, in the last episode especially, were really good. But I was disappointed that there was no more to the 10C than oops. So that was there was enough frustrations that I guess I'd say I left more frustrated than not by the end of it. And part of that's because like the last 15 minutes was like a big hug.
Okay.
Brian, what you got?
I mean, I think this is easily the best season finale Discovery has done. I feel like that because I do, as much as I love Discovery, I have to agree the season 1 finale was a little not as good as the rest of the season, and the season 2 finale was not as good as the rest of the season, and the season 3 finale was not as good as the rest of the season.
I need to rewatch that first one because I feel like I might have liked that one best, but I also have not revisited it. So anyway,
I don't hate the first season finale. It was a little anticlimactic, but I think it was my favorite until now. I'll take this one over it, I think.
Yeah, whereas I felt like this one was easily, I thought it, I mean, maybe you wouldn't disagree, but I thought it was on par with the rest of the season nicely and did not feel like a sudden drop the ball, failed to stick the landing kind of episode. I thought, no.
I will say that it was probably...
It maybe wasn't the smoothest landing in the world, but they landed that plane and it taxied up to the terminal. So
I will say it probably was on par with the rest of the season. I think you and I may have just had different views of how the rest of the season was.
Yeah, well, that's why I said you might actually agree with this part.
Oh, yeah.
I thought I liked the fact that it didn't involve a bunch of deliberate violence. There's like one punch and one shuttle ram, and that's about the extent of deliberate violence happening in this story, and I appreciated that. After go look at all the others, they're much more violent than that, and most season finales and most Star Trek tend to be fairly violent.
I do agree with that. I like when they try and avoid it just being like a pew pew or kind of thing.
Yeah. I thought it was a touch predictable, but they spent 12 episodes setting up the dominoes right in front of us. So we were always good. We kind of had a pretty good idea, I feel like, of how they were going to fall down. And to quote Tom Baker, the Fourth Doctor, watching them fall was immensely satisfying. So
Cool. Well, I do think they spent too long, telling the story. I don't think it needed to be 13 episodes, but next season they are moving to the 10 episode format that all the other Star Trek shows are using. And I'm pretty happy about that, because that's really my only criticism with season 4, is that it was drawn out for far too long.
Yay, we can get rid of the casino episode.
I would like to time travel back to 2016 and show you the clip of Father E saying, I wish they made the Star Trek seasons were shorter. So
I'm getting 50 plus episodes a year. I'm okay with shorter seasons.
Father, he needs some downtime on podcast production. So
I'll say this: it's really hard for me these weeks when they overlap, when they do 2 shows in the same week. Like, this is the 3rd week in a row of them doing that with Picard and Discovery. It normally takes me about 10 hours. I know no one cares about this, but it's about 10 hours of work to get ready for the live stream, to get the podcast edited and distributed and everything. And I have to watch these episodes 3 times. The process I go through, and I'm pretty good at doing this routine, but when there's 2 episodes, it just takes even more time. But I enjoyed getting so much Star Trek I enjoyed this week that I, believe it or not, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm sad there's only 1 episode of Star Trek next week. So I am insane, and I think I have an addiction to Star Trek. But
you think?
What's that?
Hey, can we quick throw up Linda Marx's comment in the comments? Sure. I feel like that's where I'm feeling right now. Disco. Everyone loves everyone all the time. It's exhausting.
No. I think when you save Earth, you earn the big celebration in the bar. But yeah, I mean, that's been an ongoing complaint of the show for a lot of people, including myself at times. But yeah, we start off with this starbase with the Federation HQ. Apparently, it can not only fly around at warp, but it can also split apart and be a bunch of little ships. Was that cool or weird?
I'll allow a lot for the what are we 32nd
32nd century.
32nd century.
Yeah.
I'll allow a fair amount. I'm gonna say it's allowed.
Yeah, it needs to be ridiculously weird stuff to feel, what is that, 700 years more advanced than Picard in the 25th century?
DS9 could move around a little bit. They could even move it warp, right?
The Death Star in the other Star franchise. The Death Star could go to different solar systems and stuff.
They can just go now. They can go hot rodding.
And I think they're going to stay where they're at now. So that's good for a one-way trip. It might take a while before you have the engines up and running to move it again.
Yeah, I like the idea that the ship could be pulled apart into a bunch of little ships, like the Prometheus design class gone mad. But I did look at it saying, when they designed this model of the Starfleet HQ, they clearly had no idea that they were going to be splitting this up into little ships.
Programmable matter. You can add connection points wherever you want.
Oh yeah, no, but the CGI modelers who put it together for season 2 had no one told them, oh, and it needs to be able to split apart into a bunch of ships, because I'm sure it would have looked different had they been given that briefing. So, which is fair enough. I mean, it was another season. I liked it. I preferred it. I prefer to be amazed by the crazy technology of the 32nd century rather than the reverse of, wait, they still can't do that? Or, wait a minute, they could do that back in Voyager. So,
let's talk about in the hyperfield, where you have Madman Tarka is proceeding to the power source in Book's ship, and talking about the multiverse, trying to talk Book into I can, your family, they're not going to be quite the same, but close enough, so you should team up with me. And while that's going on the Discovery, the president and Michael are trying to react to what the 10C freaking out at Book's ship, and they learn Nadoya confesses that, I was the one who vented the plasma, and that really pisses Burnham off. But Nadoya is then told oh wait, you got played. Tarka was lying to you. He's taken Book hostage. So that kind of sets her up to have her big redemption moment later on in the episode, which Brian and I were talking about, or I'm sorry, Dave and I were talking about. Like, yeah, they should just let her die. I think that would have made the redemption easier to accept. That's probably my only nitpick and serious nitpick in the episode.
You know what's weird is I don't think I would like the episode any better if that had happened. I just honestly felt like it was just a little bit too much of a parade of sort of wins. That's all. I'm not quite sure.
I'd be curious, like any women of color fans that watch this show, if they have thoughts on this, because I know like that was one of the criticisms of Discovery season 1 is like you had just killed a bunch of women of color with Giorgio and Landry, and then I think there was another one in there somewhere, and so I think now like and then they did like the bury your gay thing with Dr. Kolber, so I think now like they're a little reluctant about
I'll say this:
killing
they
any
also
other people.
They broadly have a diverse enough cast that I think it's gotten a little bit easier, I hope, and we're getting closer to an ideal where anybody might end up in any situation. They might end up in a bad spot, might end up in a good spot. When I think about these sort of three-way sort of push-pull with Ndoye, it's three people of color sort of trying to figure out their will. She's torn in the middle. Burnham has this perspective, and Book has this perspective. And and I think they're all nuanced enough in their portrayals that I don't, at least, I'm saying this is a white guy, but right. Like I felt to me like it was a fairly nuanced look at them, and that nobody got vilified. So that much at least I think was cool.
Yeah. And if anyone in that community does have any thoughts on it, please let us know, or let us know if you want to come on the show and talk about this stuff. Well,
for sure.
Well, or if you just want to talk about like other stuff, if you want to talk about like other parts of Star Trek, that. Well, we'd love to have you on board, but Brian, you as the big Vulcanoid fanatic, what did you think about seeing Tarina's mind meld? You complimented the show before about how they didn't just use like the mind meld cheat to communicate with the aliens. Well, they do here.
Yeah, but at least we got a whole episode of doing the other thing first, and we only had to pull out the mind meld because Tarka is an ass, and so I was like, oh, okay. I did kind of wonder why they didn't bring that up when they were in the shuttle bay and stumped last episode, and they're like, well, let's bring the bridge crew down. Maybe they'll have an idea. It seems like somebody could have said, well, we could load Tarina in a spacesuit and shoot her out there,
V'ger style.
And I didn't want them to do that in the second episode, but it would have. It almost feels odd that they didn't bring that up, since that is what they were going to do in the next episode. I mean, they don't have to put her in a spacesuit, as it turns out. So I guess these aliens are
it's like one of our planets is missing in the animated series. I saw someone complain about you can't mind meld through a window. And I'm like, yeah, you can, you goofy bastard. They did that in the animated series. You don't know what you're talking about. Shut up.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Vulcans and any race that has telepathy or mind meld type stuff. I say this as someone in role-playing games. I'm always acutely aware if characters have those powers, because basically that means they have the power to see through my plot, and I don't want that to happen. And so I understand you don't want Vulcan mind melds to immediately be a solution to many issues of communication and things like that. But yeah, that's just one of those things where like a line or two about it's like, even if it was just like, hey, this is an extremely personal thing. It actually could go wrong. There could be problems with it. It's not by any means a clear cut solution, but if only they to say culturally, I'm not going to just go and mind meld with anybody you ask me to, but because this is so vitally important. Yes.
Yeah. I think Spock is just a really promiscuous mind melder. He'll mind meld with anything. Not every Vulcan is as willy-nilly about it as he is. And even here, when she does it, it is shown to be at great risk to her and really not that helpful. She just walks away saying like they're really confused, they're scared, they don't trust us. The only thing we learn that's helpful is that they're a hive mind, like the Borg, or like the Medusans and Prodigy. Zero told us that the Medusans are a hive mind too.
Maybe she should have been the sacrifice for the episode, dying to make the communication happen.
No, because
I don't really want that to happen either.
That romance with Saru, which they talk about a little bit here. When you're against that now, you're against the Saru romance.
I've been against it, I think, most of the time.
But I thought that you were against like the build up to it. Now that they're like kind of officially an item, has it not won you over?
No, because they when they actually did it, it was they were like saying these very romantic and poetic things to each other, and talking about the depth of their feelings. And I was like, "Bro, you haven't even gone on a date yet. Wait, hold up. Just
They've
go
been on
watch
dates. They did like meditation together. He left his tree plant on with her to like go visit her and have tea with her. They went on a walk in the holodeck.
I guess it felt I felt a little early for that level of commitment to me, but I was like, watch a movie.
Yeah. I did want to say I really liked the multi-universal talk with Tarka and Book about, you could come with me to another universe and find another Quajon. And I liked it. It's not Jet Reno saying it's not the same. And I really liked that scene. That really got me in the feels about all the complex feels I'd be having in that situation, where I'd be like, well, but I could have a version of it. It wouldn't be the same. And would that be good enough? And
that scares me to think about.
It's the Matrix
I find that
thing.
Terrifying.
Yeah. It's what's his name in the Matrix. Who's Joe Pantoliano's character? Cypher.
Yeah.
The ignorance is bliss. Eat the steak. Now here's your a question though. Didn't they a few episodes back see that he had his partner, or whether romantic or not, had left some symbol or like indicating that maybe he actually had traveled there, like he might physically be there?
Yeah, or at least he was on his way there when he left that symbol.
Yeah. I mean, presumably he'd have to leave the symbol, then go there, but unless he's bopping back and forth. But
why would they bring up that kind of notable symbol of hope and have him so quickly buy into, it's just going to be a fake carbon copy of him? Like,
I think what they're saying is
he thinks Oros actually went there.
Right.
That was their plan. If we ever get separated, we'll go meet over there. So he thinks his Oros from the prime timeline universe is in Kaialis.
Kaialis timeline.
So what was their argument that it's not him?
Telling Book, like, your real people won't be there, but there might be some other ones that are close enough.
I see.
Yeah.
But they weren't trying to. They weren't trying to convince him that his boy wouldn't be.
Yeah,
real.
yeah. It ain't apples and oranges. It's.
I got it.
Yeah. I mean, it could turn out they're all fascists, but supposedly this is a good time.
It's actually the Confederation universe. Tarka actually makes it over there, and they're like, "You dirty Rysian, you filthy alien!" He's like immediately executed.
Oops.
He sees Oros's skull in Picard's trophy room. He's like, "No."
There's the Ron Moore script I wanted.
Yes, there we go. You're right. I also liked that Nadoye comes out and be's honest and says, it was me. I did it, which again reinforces this theme of you're better if you just tell the truth, even if it's awkward and painful. That seems to be running through the season, and the openness between Tirana and Saru later on, and their openness with each other, again reinforcing honesty leads
and
to
communication.
Solutions.
It's better to say things that need to be said than keep secrets.
I liked broadly. I liked that in theory, but haven't always liked how they've executed it. With Nadoye, I thought they did for whatever reason that one I thought worked better, and I liked how that played out.
Yeah, and it works as her character is like the dutiful soldier.
Right.
She's like, I stand by my actions. I did it because of XYZ. And what President Rillick says later about reasons matter, and we should consider that too. Just about like
that would be nice to that is something where there are times when I was like, I do like the idea that broadly 32nd century justice should be. It's nice to imagine it actually being more just.
Yeah. Let's talk about their escape from the orb with the spore drive that destroys the reaction cube, and I assume they're going to be able to rebuild the spore drive. I don't know if it'll look different in season 5, but I was at this weird mushroom ship that a lot of people had a lot of problems with in season 1 way back in 2017. I was actually sad to see like this reaction cube room blow up. I was like, oh, I'm gonna miss that thing.
It's their thing now. It became their thing. 100%.
I actually was just like last week thinking, we haven't seen the room with all the mushrooms in a long time. I missed the room.
Oh,
with
we
all
haven't
the
seen that since season 1.
Yeah, and we haven't
cargo
and we
bay
have-
with all the
and
mushrooms.
what we saw once, Stamets in the chair doing the little arm thing, Jesus arm thing.
Looks like Starfleet now is going to have to go back to torturing tardigrades.
So
No, they have Aurelio, Kenneth Mitchell's character. He can build them another prototype.
Yeah, it does seem like that's in the cards. I would assume.
But the new one, you just like plug into the console. There's not like a whole room and a bunch of mushrooms, and apparently you just go ka-chunk into and it sinks down into the console, and you're ready to go. And that's not as fun.
Book is able to escape from the force field with the cat collar. Which they actually set that up earlier in the season. There's a lot of things they set up earlier that pay off here. Like they established in the second episode of the season that Grudge hates hollows. She doesn't trust holograms. And so that's why she has like this anti-hologram collar.
I'd forgotten that. That's pretty cool.
There's a few little things like, and I think a lot of it did just come from, COVID caused like a delay in shooting, and the writers are able to, this season of Discovery, it actually feels like a specific vision that even though I think like the story felt stretched out and has some filler in the second half of the season, I do think that it was more planned and more structured than previous seasons. And also I noticed Alex Kurtzman didn't have the writing credits in this episode that he had previously, specifically with like finales and stuff like that. And I think this is just more of a purely Michelle Paradise version of the show after she had season 3 to be showrunner for a whole season, and then here to build on top of what she did there. So I actually think the writing has improved in the show.
Yeah. I still like season 3 a little bit more, but this is easily my second favorite season of Discovery. And I really enjoyed this season. I like that using a cat toy to escape the prison is great fun.
His cat ownership is what allowed him to win in the end.
Oh, he doesn't own Grudge.
Yes, okay.
By cat ownership, I mean Grudge's ownership of him.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Yeah.
He gives the message to Reno. He says, "Tell Michael I love her and to do whatever is necessary." And then I love Tig Notaro's performance of how it's still like so like dry and deadpan, but at the same time it still felt really authentic and heartfelt. It's really weird that it came off that way. But when she's just like, I guess like the bluntness.
Yeah.
Right. She's built up a sort of oeuvre of acting style that's super low key and wry and sardonic. So, but like a slight inflection here and there can be what from Reno is sort of is deep empathy.
It's like an outburst from someone else.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like the 3 ships episode of Lower Decks with the Vulcans, where you make the slight inflection.
Oh yeah, and it's like you're out of control. You're way too emotional. Yeah.
Yes.
But when she tells Michael the man loves you, he says do whatever you got to do, even if it means killing. Let me also ask Dave. I know sometimes it bothers you if people get too jokey during high stakes stuff, and it can bother me too. But at the beginning when she's telling Buck, if only I had some hot and sour soup. Yeah, and she's like, I'm just hungry. Or at least we won't have any pain when we die, so that's good.
That one worked for me. I think it was ultimately in service to rather dark humor, I suppose, sort of gallows humor, which the scene which fits the scene. But even if it hadn't gone to that, I thought that worked pretty well. That fits who Reno is as a person.
Yeah, I haven't seen Tig Notaro in a lot of dramatic stuff, but Where's Kovich in our live audience is telling us that she is brilliant in One Mississippi, which I think she might actually. She was originally from Mississippi, and then she went to high school in Houston, Texas, I believe. So I like to claim her as one of our Texas Star Trek actors, but I think she was born in Mississippi.
I liked her. Is this where I get to say I was born ready?
Oh yeah.
I did think that Book could have just found a way to blow up his ship. I mean, can't he just go to where
all the controls were hacked?
No, to just go to where the antimatter is and shoot it with a phaser till the antimatter gets loose and blows the ship up.
I mean, he's not an engineer, but
Go to where the torpedoes are and shoot them with the phaser until they blow up.
I assume that stuff is like force field protected.
I don't know. I mean, it just felt like it seems like there should be when you've got a ship with a big crate of antimatter on it. It shouldn't be that hard to blow up if you're have a phaser in your hand. Or something.
I don't think it's asking too much for the audience to accept that that Tarka has made the ship bulletproof, where it's there's nothing you can do internally to stop it.
Yeah.
So
I liked, as far as examples of 32nd century, Discovery can pick up an incoming transporter beam, figure out what it would look like when it's fully assembled, hijack the beam, and redirect it to the bridge. And I was like, that is some impressive shit there. that is some very impressive. You could not do that in the 24th century.
Well, they need to set that up too with Reno, so that we expect it to happen with Book, and then get the rug pulled out from under us when it doesn't work, and then get the rug pulled out from us again when the 10C fix it.
Yeah, with the 24th century, you are lucky to get your shields up by the time you detect an incoming transporter beam. And that's like your only option. Maybe we could raise the shields if we hurry and stop the beam from getting in here. But here they can detect it coming, hijack it, scan the inside, figure out what it is, redirect it to some other place. It was like, nice.
Because Book had certainly done stuff to redeem himself and had kind of reconnected with Michael over the course of several episodes now, and because that was a very dramatic scene, I think I would have gone with losing Book as the sad loss in this misunderstanding with these aliens. I especially kind of like, as a dramatic thing, we almost got him and then we didn't.
But Dave, I don't think they would want to do that, because I think they would get a lot of anger for establishing this black love relationship between these two black actors, and then killing one of them.
Sure. So, I mean, that's fair. There's sort of different levels to think about it on, and one level is the real world meta history that we are living in, but dramatically speaking, I just know that that was the anchor for the episode for me. And for those who've seen the movie Serenity, Joss Whedon's thing, there's going to be I'm not even going to say what happens, but some character gets lost in there, and because it's stunning because it happens sort of suddenly, and in fact in a moment when you think that things are safe, and so it's a very effective dramatic tool, and I think this would have been different enough from something like that it was still an effective tool.
See. If Book and Tark had been on the ship and they're like, well, the only way to stop it is to pop the antimatter box, and you've got the code for that. All right, we'll do it together. Boom. I would have been, and then Michael gets all sad. I would have been okay with that ending. I would have been I certainly would have been bummed, but that's what they wanted me to feel. But the way they did it, with him almost beaming back to the bridge and then the transporter failing after they spent so much time setting up how Tarka could transport him to the bridge, I was like, he ain't dead. He's coming back. That is not the way you kill off Book. Not with that little convoluted, weird bit of weirdness. That's he the aliens got him or something.
But I was actually pretty happy to see him alive at the end, and I'll explain why when we get to that.
I'm happy with it too, because I love the character and I want him to be in the next season. So I'm fine with it.
I love a good death scene.
I do too, but I also love when your heroes are so fucking good at what they're doing that they're able to save the day. When.
Yeah. I agree with that in principle, but because they gave me that death scene and then they took it away from me, I'm bitter at them.
I mean, they did that to you in The Wrath of Khan too. They take that away in the next movie.
Well, at least in Wrath of Khan, I got to sit with it.
Yeah, that's true.
Honestly, if they had done a kind of thing where he and Tarka, there was a question of whether they were able to get out or not, whether they might be in this other universe, whether they might have survived, and Burnham had to say, I've got to just live with hoping that happened. And then at some future date they were brought back, I would have been down with that. I think I kind of like the idea, I guess, of sitting with the grief. Dramatically I like it.
No, that's not a bad ending. I have to admit, I might like that better. They both end up going to the alternate universe because that's the only place they can go. They don't have for some reason or other, they can only escape into the alternate timeline, and so that's where they go.
And when he returns, he could say that there was a Michael there, and that it just he knew that like it would only made it worse because he knew that that it wasn't her.
Yeah.
Well, I like the Tarka and Book stuff in that that heart to heart that Book has with Tarka. Tarka finally like admitting that he's wrong, that he's gone too far. And I think the actor Sean Doyle really acted the hell out of that. I was talking about like there were good performances in this episode. We'll talk about one in a second with Book's death, but I thought Sean Doyle did a really good job. And then when we get the
he's been my I know this is funny, but he's been kind of my go-to character. Not like my favorite in the season, but like he's been one of the most interesting ones to me because of his flaws, and maybe that's that Ron Moore thing in me that I wanted to see. And clearly it was kind of a bit of a thankless role because he was going to be asked to do the betrayal that kind of everybody predicted, and he had to do as best he could to win people over given those scenarios. And I think he did do, like, he gave it his all. He for sure did.
And I don't think he makes it to his universe. I think that there's enough evidence that he clearly was just not willing to accept how hopeless and impossible and difficult all of this is to get over there. That he's blinded by his desire to escape the universe. That I think it's just like sheer like desperation, almost on like a ridiculous level there at the end, that when he says like, yeah, maybe the impact will be enough energy to get it. But I think it's just like here is a graceful way for me to bring my life to an end.
Well, yeah, he can't stop trying to tech the tech, even though he probably knows the math doesn't work out.
I mean, maybe he made it, but I think that is highly unlikely.
It's Spock burning up all the fuel on the Galileo 7. So it shouldn't work, but he's going to do it anyway.
Well, go ahead.
I did feel like it was a little awkward that they had to go get Ndoye to come up to the bridge and advise them and then send her down to the shuttle. And I felt like what they should have done is she shows up on the bridge and just confesses on her own initiative, I did the thing with the plasma. And they're all like, oh, you screw. Oh, shit's happening. Just stand there in the corner for a moment. And then she steps in when they need a tactical advisor and pitches her plan and says she'll volunteer to do it. And they're like, well, okay, then, then we don't have to have this, oh, go get her and bring her up here. Then brief her on everything that's happened. Then see if she has an idea that no, she was there on the bridge. They just hadn't had a chance to haul her off to the brig because things were happening so fast. And it was pretty clear that she wasn't an active threat at the moment.
I don't know. I think it worked fine as it was.
I think it wasn't a huge deal, but I think it would have smoothed things out slightly. And, but yeah.
Well, one thing I try to do when I'm watching these episodes is point out, like, whenever I have like an audible reaction to something, I like a verbal or something like reaction, because I watch these like in the middle of the night alone at like 1 or 2 in the morning whenever they show up on Paramount Plus. So there were like 3 times where like I had like a verbal reaction out loud. And the first is when the shuttle is about to impact Book's ship. I screamed or squealed or something. I was like, like what's gonna happen? Because I thought, like Book, Tarka, Ndoye, all of them were possibly about to die. Then the second time I had like a outburst like that was when Sonequa Martin Green's performance when Burnham is reacting to Book's death right in front of her. I didn't start crying at first, but it was when President Rillick puts her hand on Burnham's shoulder to comfort her. Yeah. And then Michael's reaction to that, to putting her hand on top of her hand. I don't know, for whatever reason, like that made me cry. Like that, like the person that, initially like didn't really get along with her, but like now like offering that support, but also, still trying to be like the pragmatic boss lady who's like, you're going to be okay, Captain. We still have shit to do. So, but and then like Burnham having to, it's almost like Kirk at the end of Balance of Terror when he has like that really sad moment, telling the young woman that her fiance is dead, but then he's to straighten up his uniform and go down the corridor and command his ship and be the dutiful captain. I felt we got like that stuff there too.
No, I loved all that. Even though, as I said, I kind of knew, I was about 90% sure Book wasn't going to stay dead for the rest of the episode. I was still very moved by it and felt like I could feel how sad she felt. So I very much, and was very tuned in with where the writers wanted me to be emotionally.
On the Earth stuff, we're running a little late, so we don't have like a lot of time to talk about it. But I just want to say, like, I thought it was cool to have like two of those cadets come back and be recurring characters, and I liked Tilly's whole thing about like, I'm glad I found my purpose in life, and that idea of I don't regret this. I did what I should have done. I'm happy that I did it and that stuff. Just real quickly. Did y'all have a strong reaction to Tilly being back on the show briefly? But
I liked but didn't love it. For whatever reason, the scenes just didn't shine for me. I will say that I do like the idea of her having sort of found her role. There was a part where she said, it sounded a little, I thought this was a little trite sounding, where she was saying, "Oh, I didn't get along well with my mom," which we've seen this come up before, and it seemed like a pretty intense rift. And she said, she's like, "Oh, but I always knew she loved me, and isn't that what counts?" And that seemed a little pat, and I didn't like that. If she had said something like, "I really harbor," if she had just gone a little bit farther and said, I'd been holding on to that resentment a lot, but as I've gotten into a better headspace here at Starfleet Academy and been able to find a better sense of who I am, I've been able to let it go. And sort of, I have to maybe squint a little bit to see the love behind it, but I can see that and take solace in it. I like that idea. It was just a little pat how it happened.
I don't know if that would have accomplished her goal of reassuring Vance that like your daughter's gonna know how much you loved her.
I mean, I guess that's what she was doing, but like because I know that like Tilly's mom seemed like a pretty monstrous person. I thought that was
monstrous. I'd say like maybe like overbearing and a bit controlling. But I mean, I know real moms in real life that are as bad as Tilly's mom. I don't know if I'd say they're monsters.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. But I was under the impression that she had not made her peace with her mom particularly before. So I don't know. It just didn't quite seem. Like if you're using that to support Vance, it seemed like she was using a disingenuous anecdote, or I didn't buy it anyway.
Yeah, I did. I like that we finally see, why was Tilly reassigned? Oh, so that she can be in all of these scenes here. Okay, now because I've been wondering what that whole Starfleet Academy thing was about ever since.
Well, I don't think she's going to be a regular on the show anymore, given some of Michelle Paradise's comments on season 5. Okay. Tilly will be in season 5, we're told, but I think she's only going to be a recurring character.
Okay. I tried not to think too hard about how the people who are flying the Starfleet headquarters around are the ones with no experience of this type of ship and very little experience with this type of technology. I was like, surely you'd want to get some people who are really experienced on this type of stuff to do this, as opposed to just, I played around on the holodeck for a while, and I've gotten kind of used to some of this tech on Discovery, so. I enjoyed it enough that I was able to overlook that, but it was still kind of in the back of my head. There was a little voice saying, why are these people being given such important jobs when they probably aren't really qualified?
Are you talking about Tilly?
Yeah, Tilly and what's his name from Discovery. Both of them were up there on the bridge or whatever it is, pushing buttons and stuff. And I'm like, these seem like the most important buttons.
Only people that stayed behind were Vance and Tilly.
Well, no, they evacuated the other guy, but he was there at the beginning earlier on in the episode. What's his name? He's gone.
Looks like we lost Father. Brian, you're just thinking that essentially like recent cadets are maybe just not the best people for this job.
Honestly, the cadets made a little more sense to me because they've at least spent all their time training on this new tech that I don't know how much time Tilly is, but she picks up stuff really fast and whatever. It's cool to see the heroes at the consoles.
Sure.
So
And I like them.
Huge deal.
I like them kind of going with a kind of more old school tradition of drinking some booze in the last
Brian,
hours.
I think you're thinking of Bryce. Bryce wasn't in this episode, was he? I don't remember seeing him.
I thought that was Bryce. Wasn't that Bryce standing over next to Tilly near the beginning? Maybe it wasn't. It was one of the Discovery style uniforms, that's for sure. But maybe I didn't get a good look at him. I just thought, oh, there's that guy. I was wondering if he was going to turn up, but maybe it wasn't him. I did think it was weird that they know, it feels like now is the time to take Tarka's alcohol and drink it, as if we're drinking to him, even though we don't know why we don't know he died, but symbolically we're drinking to Tarka because we're drinking his booze. And I thought, well, I guess I like that. I guess I like it.
I think that's just all they had to drink, but yeah, to the audience, it can work that way thematically.
Yeah. I thought it was weird that they pulled the bridge crew off again and took them down to the big meeting. I was like, what is this? Undiscovered country?
Yeah, when they go to communicate with the 10C, she's basically like, okay, anyone who is a named character, you need to be in the scene. But it did make it feel kind of big, and I'd rather them do something like this to have like their huge spectacle for the finale than like another like big battle or something. This is better than like all of those starfighters coming out the Enterprise like it's a clown car with just like an endless amount of tiny ships coming out of the back of it. I thought this was a lot cooler than that, and I did like the the visuals of it. Like seeing everyone stand in front of these massive creatures. That I didn't really build up my expectations of what the 10C is going to look like, and they'd kind of already shown the general shape and stuff before, but I that wasn't like a big interest of mine. What going into the finale was like, are they finally going to reveal the 10C? So I wasn't disappointed. I thought they looked neat, but I don't know. Did y'all like the reveal, the presentation of it?
Yeah, I mean, it was I would have preferred a little better lighting and a little less shadow just so I could see things a little more clearly. But overall, I was like, yeah, that looks big and epic and huge and weird and alien. And I was reasonably pleased with that.
I'm just going to agree with Brian. I didn't have super strong feelings. Their bigger moment was the communication in the previous episode. It was more about what they were about than what they looked like. I might have liked for like something a little bit more, like something both physical and also maybe some weirder visual effects surrounding them, just as if they are a little bit beyond human ken or something like that. But I thought it was good. No complaints.
No, the reason why I'm okay with the resurrection of Book so much, and I actually applaud it, is because I thought it worked very well as a means of forgiving the 10C. I mean, I know that like they were innocent, they were making a mistake. They didn't know that they were killing intelligent beings.
Their lawnmower had hit the ant pile.
Yeah. But I think like restoring David Ajala's character goes a long way for both the audience and for our characters in the show to accept the 10C and forgive them and start off that friendship between our galaxy and the 10C on a good note. So I liked that, and I liked again like the performances of their reactions, and then David Ajala's performance. He got so emotional where he's like crying, like he really sold it. You got to remember, this is just like a dude on a set talking to a AR wall. Maybe he might have been looking at like a video game image of the 10C or something, but he's like putting his heart into this, where he's like, these god level beings that they just brought him back with a snap of their fingers, like Q, that's how powerful they are. But he's like, no, that's not good enough. You need to stop what you're doing altogether and give up on your hyper filled. He did get like a little on the nose with like no one needs to live behind walls. You need to reach out and connect. But that theme of the season about like that communication and about the talking to each other is what we need to do to find the better tomorrow. And so I really bought into that, and their glowy foreheads I guess sold it visually.
Yeah,
You know,
no.
I liked that he took them to task for that. The cynic in me, when they said we're gonna amend our ways and stuff like that, was like, is this like when the Exxon Valdez happened and Exxon is like, we made a mistake and we're fixing things, we're doing everything in our power, and then as soon as the media spotlights off them, they kind of quietly go back and put up their hyperfield again.
Because in the montage at the end, they said that the 10C have been keeping their word and they're cleaning up all like the subspace rifts and everything.
I mean, that's cool of them.
Yeah.
But it also then, in a weird way, like they do we know if they, if the hyperfield? I mean, like we don't know exactly, like if we're using that as the metaphor for the wall that Trump wanted to build, then yeah, it's clearly an act of paranoia. But were they paranoid? What if they started doing this and then they're under attack and then they're like, oh, hey, about that?
Yeah, I did say 2 weeks later, the Cyber Cthulhu from Picard show up and wipe them out. But that's
Well, it was after those meteoroids or whatever like destroyed their planet, so that's why they're so cautious now.
Right.
And to the point to where they've kind of obsessed about like their own security, and and literally walled themselves off from the rest of the galaxy.
I'll say this. This is something I broadly like about Star Trek. There are many times we do see alien races that are, some version of paranoid or predatory or risky with their actions. And there are many times when we see aliens that are beyond that. And that's it's a pretty good mix overall. I think Trek manages to maintain a level of optimism that, yes, there could be some godlike aliens out there that actually have empathy, while also showing us that sometimes those godlike aliens are petty Q or Trelane type people too.
Yeah. I did have this moment when they brought Book back, the moment you see the silhouette of him forming, which you even have a screen capture for there. But when they're bringing him back, where I thought, what if it's Tarka? What if because he was trying to, they were both trying to beam away.
No, what if
the audience would have turned on a dime on that?
No, listen to this, because this is what I thought too. When like they bring back Book, I was like, why did y'all assume that's the one she loves? Like, that's kind of messed up. Like, just because like they're both black, you think they're the ones that like were in they were the couple. Like she could have been in a relationship with the white guy from Ryza for all you know. Like that's very presumptuous of you, 10C, to just make that assumption.
You think that Book should have taken him to task for that, and he's like, and another thing.
Yeah.
You know what's kind of messed up? I would have been there for it.
That would have been great.
I would have been there for it.
Anything else on the communication with the 10C before we get into our ending?
That would have been a great Jet Reno thing where Book shows up and Jet goes, oh, thank God. And somebody leans over and asks Jet, what was that about? He says, oh, I thought it might have ended. It could have just as easily been Tarka that they were going to about drop in front of us.
She wouldn't have made a cocktail then. Well, that's what she tells Stamets when she's like, I'm already making a cocktail, Bobcat. I forgot that she called him Bobcat before, but the two of them, like, they don't like each other. They don't get along.
Did we determine that was just like some random thing that Tig Notaro said? Like, does that have any bearing actually on Stamets?
No, I think that's exactly what it is. But
I kind of liked it. Yeah, and I liked seeing Adira's reaction to it. That was fun.
Adira's great. With just that actor Blue Del Barrio. I love watching Blue Del Barrio because their face is so reactionary to everything. Like if you watch like a scene with Blue Del Barrios in the background, they're just constantly they're just like making they're just anything that's happening. Yeah, like they're just fun to watch on screen. Yeah, I guess let's get into our ending. They wormhole back to Earth. They have drinks and hugs with Tilly in the bar, which I think was earned. I think that being back with Tilly, everyone's alive. We all made it. We got Book back. We have Earth and Navarre. I think that's very appropriate. And then the Saru Tarina thing. I said a while back, my prediction was like, we will only see them hold hands. We will never see them kiss. Yeah, because I think it would just be too awkward to stay. He's so much taller than her with his Doug Jones hoofs that he wears, and I think it just looked too weird.
Pick her up. Should just pick her up and kiss her.
They could be like kind of like holding each other on a couch or in a chair or something like that, and they could like have a little peck. But I also think because they both are kind of they're sort of aloof and sort of zen about things, that sort of demonstrativeness that might not even necessarily figure into their conception of romance. I don't
Yeah.
What I was going to say is like
for some finger stuff.
I did. There's the quote of the night. Down for some finger stuff.
Kelpian finger stuff.
Oh, I see. I wasn't super down on like kind of how long it took them to come out with it, but I also didn't necessarily want them to be like super PDA, teenagers about it. So I think that does work on that level. That for sure it fits their vibe.
And we have the goodbye with Book, and he's off to do community service, which I actually think that's appropriate. I don't want him to go to like prison camp in the 32nd century.
Repente or nothing.
Yeah, we're gonna have him breaking dilithium.
It's convenient. It's convenient to do to your season 5 writers' room because he's around, and it's very easy to bring him back into the fold. He has ties to the couriers. He has the ability to use a spore drive, so it would be very easy to come up with a reason why they have to go get Book back. And
I really liked the punishment Book was receiving. I thought was, and maybe punishment's the wrong word, the therapy Book's receiving.
The rehabilitation
that Book is receiving, it felt like a really good fit. It felt like something that might actually give him some peace, helping other people and helping them put their lives back together might actually help his. Because he's the sort of guy who runs around and rescues aliens because they're on the verge of going extinct. So that's kind of his jam, is helping people in need. So yeah, I really liked that. I liked the discussion with Michael and Rillick about reasons matter. Which you touched on earlier. I like that discussion a lot, and the fact that just to check the box, you can have the Voyager if you want, it's kind of nice to come back to that. Felt like another thing that came out of the extra time they had to write the scripts is to bring that little beat back. So I really liked all of that stuff. I liked it all.
And the goodbye, he says, Kwakani Yaquin. I liked the sentiment behind that of we've parted ways 100 times before, and so this isn't really like a goodbye. We're just going to part again, but we'll meet again and part another 100 times after that, which also telegraphs to the audience like, yes, Book will come back in season 5. He will not be permanently gone. Do not worry. Calm down. I said I had 3 outbursts watching this episode. The third one was when Michael tries to say Kwakani Yaquin and Book corrects her, and she's like, I got it right the first time. There's like their chemistry there. Like I chuckled out loud at that, and I was watching this kind of smiling because I think they are great, and I love this romance, and I am eager to see more of it in season 5. I don't want them to break them up. I don't want them to kill one of them off. I'd like to see this relationship continue.
Playfulness is always a kind of fun thing to see in relationships. It's one of the most humanizing things I think you can sort of depict.
Yeah. Roddenberry always liked to end with a scene where they're all kind of being jokey to show us that they're okay. And I thought that was overdone in the original series, but I think with this relationship, we really needed their okay jokey scene.
Yeah,
I think that really was
after them being at odds for
a very
good
episodes. Use of that trope.
Mr. Book, I think you're getting more human every day.
And I think that Michael would be in such a good mood at this because she was like, yeah, I'm just glad that you're not fucking dead. Like you're going to go do community service. Great. That is fantastic. I'll see you when I can see you. You're alive. That's more than I thought I was going to get.
You're alive, and I don't have to fight you anymore. We're not enemies, So I can see why she'd be riding pretty high. Oh, and saved Earth and Navarre too. That's
She probably
that
should have
probably
kicked
doesn't
his ass
feel
a little
bad.
bit for taking some shots at her when they were first trying to blow up the DMA. She should have been like, I didn't forget about
he's
that.
grieving the loss of his planet. You gotta give your partner a pass on that one, I think.
He shot at her.
But I liked the montage of all the happy endings. I just thought that the narration they gave Burnham might have been like a little too like obvious, like when she's saying like new relationships are forging while people are reconnecting with old ones. It's like, I know, I can see Vance and his kid, and I can see Saru and Tarina. You don't have to spell it out for me. But
I was fine with her spelling it out. I liked it.
but I do like a good captain's log entry, so easy to forgive. I like that Book gets to keep his cat in rehab too. They you know what? Why not? Sure, he probably needs.
No, they should have had
your planet. Now we're taking your cat.
Send it to the dude from Star Trek Prodigy. The cat's got to go bust asteroids with the Cations. There, that's the only punishment I'll accept for it.
My wife actually said, "Are they ending the show?" That felt like a great way to end the entire show. So, and I was like, "No, there's another season."
Well, we have the I guess cameo or maybe stunt casting if you want to be cynical, but the Earth president played by Stacey Abrams, which I thought was I wouldn't have done this, but I can't bash them too much for it. She's in real life, she is very vocally a Star Trek fan.
It just happened to have probably kept Trump out of second term through her actions.
She's a very effective organizer. In fact, I'd say she's better at winning other people's elections than winning her own. Yeah, and she's currently running for governor in Georgia, so I wouldn't expect to see her again in season 5. I think this might be all we get, or just it'll be like a one scene thing again if we ever see her again. It does kind of like really root this episode into, modern day 2020 politics, and she didn't feel like a professional actor in her scene. She it felt a little weird and awkward to me, but I think it's cool that we are bringing relevant people. They're going to get like a lot of news coverage and stuff onto Star Trek, because I think if people are talking about, did you hear what they did on the Star Trek Discovery show and stuff like that, I think that's probably a generally good thing for the franchise. And
arguably, I saw someone in the comments going back to my convo earlier about the episode feeling toothless, or that maybe the broad strokes of the show. In some ways, that's the most toothsome thing that they did, is bringing in a person who's a very real politician to represent the hopeful president of Earth.
Yeah, and of course, I guess you do like run the risk of alienating your audience that doesn't agree with her politics. There's policies I disagree with her on. I would say like I'm closer to the Federation vision of the future. I'm a little further left than her on a lot of stuff. But that being said, I did talk a lot about how I think this episode and the season, a big part of it is about like, communication and reaching out and talking to people. And so I don't want to be the guy who's like, like I don't agree with all of her policies, so I don't want her in this episode. Like, no, it's like, that's the thing me and Stacey Abrams have in common is our love of Star Trek. If anything, that should open dialogue between us. And I'm going to use this opportunity right now, even though I know this will never get to her, but just to ask her to reconsider her stance on the oppression of the Palestinian people. But that being said, that is my utilization of the open dialogue Star Trek style that this whole season was about. But yeah, and it is cool that we have Earth back in the Federation. I liked that.
Yeah. I like that we didn't spend a bunch of time to it. No, just tell me where I sign.
Diggs Briarthorne has an excellent comment in our live audience. He says there have been worse celebrity actors in Star Trek before, and I am so thrilled that they went with Stacey Abrams instead of someone like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or someone like that. Yeah, they could have certainly done a lot worse. I'm not at all outraged or anything. And I would just say like I might have gone with Brianna Joy Gray, but or I don't know. I'm sure I could think of like another another cool Star Trek fan out there, but yeah. It was cool to see Earth being peaceful and not like shitty isolationists that we saw in season 3, and they're back in the fold, and to see Starfleet HQ back at Earth. The name of the episode is Coming Home, and it is both Earth coming home to the Federation, but also Federation HQ coming home to Earth. And I think they'll keep the HQ it'll kind of be like space dock. It'll be floating above Earth orbit in season 5, I predict.
Yep, it's a prettier sort of space dock. It looks a little like modern art-ish.
Yeah, well, 32nd century.
Yep.
But yeah, do you have anything else on this episode before I go into the Gornegs?
The episode for me broadly continues my tradition of ending Discovery seasons disappointed. I don't know how else to say it. My heart is always struggles with Discovery. Sometime a few months later, I start to miss the show, and I see the trailers and with the actors. But even that is also wearing on me. So I'm unfortunately ending, I would say, not in a good place as far as my fondness for the show.
Well, that is a sour note, but
yeah, I appreciate hearing y'all's comments. I like to get the other perspective, and it sometimes recrystallizes my own. But I can't. You either gut reaction that are feeling it.
Yeah, no, you can't argue with an emotion. Yeah, you can't.
Yeah.
Like I can't tell you don't feel the way you feel, and just like you can't tell me. So,
Brian, what about you? How was your response?
I didn't think season 4 was quite as good as season 3, but I knew it wasn't going to be. The energy of what is the 32nd century like was just going to be almost impossible to top. I love the premise of 3, and I knew that you couldn't recapture that energy, and I didn't think they were going to come up with anything quite that mind-blowingly cool. And yeah, they didn't. But I really like 4. 4 is easily my second favorite season. I love Paradise's show running. And I guess my one comment would be, if Tark had just been a bit more honest about what he wanted, maybe they could have tracked down the Guardian of Forever and sent him off to his timeline.
No, that's a beautiful point. Yeah, like Tarka was the one actor here who wasn't communicating.
Yeah.
That's true.
He didn't have that openness, and
he's very much one lie after another, even with his allies.
And he almost fucked over the entire galaxy because of it.
Yeah, and our heroes actually might have been able to. There's this thing called the Guardian of Forever. You just need to find it. I'm sure it'd help you out. So it helped out worse people than you. So.
Well, yeah, I don't know if I can deny that. But yeah, I'm just gonna say that I'm looking forward to season 5. Overall, season 4 of Discovery, I think I appreciate the stability, the sense of vision that I got with it. I do like Paradise's writing. The show finally feels like it's not changing direction constantly. It understands what it is, what it's good at. It is the most emotionally aware Star Trek show. I heard someone describe it that way, and we call it the touchy-feely show sometimes, and sometimes that can be annoying. But this show it's not just like a discovery of the galaxy, but also like a discovery of like your inner self and thinking of your own emotions and being aware of your own emotions and the emotions of people around you, and it wears that on its sleeve proudly. So it knows what it wants to do. I wish that they hadn't drawn this out for 13 episodes. They're fixing that with season 5. It's going to be a 10-episode season, so that makes me happy. I'm just concerned about not getting enough Tilly next year, and that's kind of my only worry going into season 5.
Hey, Fathery, am I right that they have now spent the same number of seasons in the 32nd century as they have not in it?
Yes.
And so as of next season, they will begin having spent more time in the 32nd century.
Right. Which I think is appropriate. That kind of feels like they're the true home of this show.
Yeah, it does seem like if it is going to have an arc, it will have been going from like war with the Klingons to
mirror universe to
a hopeful future, in the far flung future. Yeah, that's true. Maybe all you need to do is hang out with Pike, and that'll kind of help you get your direction.
That'll get you where you need to go.
I do think that kind of helped probably galvanize the writers. They saw how fans reacted to that, and that probably pushed them somewhat towards this direction.
Like what Tilly was talking about like I found the place I was supposed to be, and
Yeah.
I did what I needed to do, and
Maybe the show is Tilly.
Cool. Well, that being said, I'm going to real quickly go through the Gorn eggs I have here, our Easter eggs, in jokes, and continuity connections. There aren't much, but there's one big one I really want to point out, and that is with the ships. We got some cool ship names, but the biggest, baddest, coolest ship we saw, they treated it very ceremoniously. It was the USS Mitchell. It comes through and saves the shuttle from getting hit by some asteroids. The reason why I think this is so neat, and they mentioned the Mitchell in an earlier episode. I don't know if y'all recall, but I was trying to talk about it in the Gornigs. I was like, why is it called the Mitchell? I don't think it's named after Gary Mitchell. I don't know who it's named after. Well, actor Kenneth Mitchell, who suffers from ALS, and I don't think he's able to act anymore, so he didn't get to appear in the show, but he did say at Star Trek Las Vegas that the Discovery writers found a clever way to include him in Season 4. I got to talk to him on the Star Trek cruise a couple weeks ago. I asked him, there's only 2 episodes left of Discovery. Is there anything we still need to keep our eyes open for in these last 2 episodes? And he's unable to speak now. He has to talk through the typing with his eye, like Stephen Hawking style. But he nodded his head, yes. And I was watching this, and it dawned on me after I finished watching. I was like, the USS Mitchell, that cool ship, that's named after Kenneth Mitchell. And so I thought that was really, really neat. And I'm glad that they kept him in.
Apparently the captain's going to get a commendation.
Yeah. So I picture in my mind's eye the captain of the Mitchell he's not named Mitchell, but he's played by Kenneth Mitchell.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Some of the other ship names in here, there was a Pathfinder, the Takov, that was that seed ship that Non used to hang out on. So that was there helping at the evacuation. The Credence and the Nog were mentioned before, and there's apparently a new Yelchin, as in Anton Yelchin. So
that made me sad.
There was an old Yelchin. You remember in Season 3 when Burnham was collecting all the black boxes from the blown up ships?
Yeah.
One of them was from a USS Yelchin. So apparently there's like a new 32nd century Yelchin too. And a Greco, I don't know what Greco means. The only Greco I know is like Greco-Roman. So I don't know what the USS Greco is, but there's a Greco out there. Also, President Rillick mentions the Borg when they talk about the 10C having their minds linked. She says they're linked like the Borg. That's actually a big deal. That means the Borg still exists in the 32nd century, or someone who is present in the 32nd century would be familiar with them enough that, I think they probably still have some relevance out there. So I don't know if we'll ever see the Borg in Discovery. I'd kind of be curious. I think that's more of like Picard's territory right now, but maybe we'll find out what happened to the Borg in that time.
Yeah, it could be a vague reference to wherever we're headed in Season 2 of Picard. That like by the end of the season, we'll know why she knew about the Borg.
I mean, I'm an advocate for peace with the Borg. I think that'd be interesting, but we'll see what happens on Picard. My favorite Gorn egg in this episode of Discovery was the mention of Tiburon, the planet, which is so cool. I love Tiburon. That is one of the few examples of really solid continuity in the original series. They just mentioned Tiburon as a planet in 2 different episodes. They mention it in the Savage Curtain. One of those weird evil people that the Excalibans create had done terrible things, terrible war crimes on Tiburon. And also in The Way to Eden, the big-eared cult leader of all the hippie people, he was from Tiburon. So they just reused the name of a planet from a previous episode. They didn't do a ton of that in the original series, so I love that.
Yeah.
It's like the original Gorn egg. The episode was dedicated to April. It says for April with love. I had to look into this a little bit, but the speculation I see is that is for April Nosifora. Sorry if I got your name wrong. She was a producer on Berman era Star Trek and also has worked on Picard and Discovery, and she's battling cancer right now. So this season was dedicated to April.
Very cool. Somebody in the comments was talking about the ship names and that tribute there or acknowledgement as being classy, and that really is definitely what that is.
Yeah. And it's easy, and the writers are always having to think, what's the name of this ship? What's the name of this ship? So, it's a good, efficient way to put that in there. So all of that being said, I just want to thank everyone who joined us, not just for this conversation, but the whole season of Discovery. It's been another interesting journey, and we will be back next week to talk about Picard Season 3, episode 4. If you're currently watching us live, you should go hop on over to the Starfleet Boy After Dark channel, which I think if you keep an eye on the live chat right now, Starfleet Boy will tell you when that will be going on. I'm going to guess probably around 11:30 Eastern. But where there's going to be a lot of fun talk over there with some Kirk casting news and who knows what else is going to go on over there. And so Starfleet Boy After Dark will start at 11:30-ish. So settling the debates of Star Trek. Okay, that sounds exciting. But yeah, and next week we only have one episode of Star Trek to talk about, but we have 7 straight weeks of Picard. I think that's going to be a fun ride. We're a third of the way into it and I'm having a good time, so we'll see how these next 2/3 play out. And then, I'm so excited, we get 10 episodes of Strange New Worlds. So I'm really looking forward to that.
All right.
Then, I love our animated shows. We have more Prodigy and more Lower Decks later in the year. We'll get that, maybe like late summer. So very cool. And me and Dave are going to try to get back on over to the Bajor sector to our favorite Cardassian space station, Deep Space Nine. We're hoping we can do some Deep Space Nine Season 5 talk the summer. Maybe I shouldn't even be announcing it now. It's too early, but hopefully we get that. I'm thinking like July we'll be doing more Deep Space Nine. Maybe we can do 5 and 6.
Give me that Ron Moore.
Yeah, there's plenty of Ron Moore. I think the Season 5 premiere is written by Ron Moore. But I'll have to go double check on that. But yeah, so lots of cool stuff coming down the pike. And thank you for joining us again. We'll be back Friday, 7 p.m. Central. And until then, as always, live long and prosper, y'all. I'm waiting on my engineer to hit the end credits. I don't know if he's still at the helm, so I'll just
listen to the Tex-Trek
myself.
podcast through Apple Podcasts, Google
Later,
Podcasts, Spotify, or at tex-trek.fm.